Let's start the show.
It's April 26, 2012. Welcome to This Is Only a Test, the official podcast of Tested.com.
Right.
Look at that fucking squirrel on my bird feeder.
And then suddenly, the Enterprise D's bridge.
I'm Will Smith. Joining me today, as always, Norman Chan. How you doing, Norm?
Doing good.
Which feels like we're on the bridge right now, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What's the typewriter noise in the back? I never heard that one before. Gary Whitta, how you doing, sir?
I'm good. You're right. It does make you feel like you're on the bridge. I
Yeah.
love those kind of ambient bridge sounds.
I think I'm going to get that and the engine loop and just run them in the background
The
of the
engine loop is
podcast.
only appropriate if you're in
engineering. Okay.
It's very soothing, though. It is kind of like being in the womb.
Yeah. Like
Kind of that thrumming sound.
Wom, 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 wom. Brad Shoemaker, our first X-over tested giant bomb since the
happened?
It's been a weird month.
This is not the podcast that I was promised.
Hey, welcome to Pacifica.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah,
This is the
time
first
in
official
Sunny
crossover
Pacifica.
event.
yeah. This is the new home of This Is Only a Test. My dining room in Pacifica.
I think I'm just gonna stay.
You're welcome.
It's real
Anytime.
homey.
Come
Real
on
homey.
down.
There's like corgi imagery everywhere.
We have one corgi wooden cutout over there.
There's like
we call him Woody.
There's like a corgi coffee cup hanger in the kitchen.
There
or something.
No.
Portraits.
That looked like
Corgis
a-
playing
is that a
poker.
fox?
There's a fox.
Is that a fox?
He holds my kitchen twine.
I see what I want to see.
Yeah, there's a picture of corgis on the wall in the hallway. So
Stuffed
there
corgi on the rug.
There's a stuffed corgi on the rug.
That's just Chloe.
Oh, Chuck Testa.
Yeah.
So we're here today. It's Thursday. It's podcast time. What should we just jump right into it? Norm and I went on a trip last week.
We can talk about the trip.
I don't think we should talk about the Saturday morning thing, but I think we should talk about everything else.
What?
What happened
Really?
Saturday morning?
I think we should save the Saturday morning thing.
Okay.
I meant to discuss this before we started the show, and I forgot.
Brilliant.
We don't have to. I mean, we can
Brilliant,
talk
Smith.
about it. So we went to NAB, the National Association of Broadcasters show in Las Vegas, where I lost $120 playing blackjack, so that pretty much sucked.
Not my fault.
I followed your instructions exclusively throughout this turn.
And you were lost much quicker.
I want to hear your take me to blackjack school.
What you wait? You played.
I mean, I know how to play.
You
I
know
just
how
want to hear
blackjack,
your recommendation. Yeah.
Norm
Split
follows
your
the
eights,
book.
Hit on 16 of dealer showing 7
well,
or higher. I
that's
mean,
all-
you just play the book.
That's
the
by
only
the
thing you can
book.
change is how much you bet. That's how card counting works.
Right.
And the cut. And
What's the
it's my belief.
You know, when you put the card in the,
So
in the deck.
you
Oh, yeah.
The dealer
Yeah.
offers with
But
a
if
new
they're-
shoe. With a new shoe,
Yeah.
the dealer offers one of the players to cut the deck.
Yeah. But I mean, that only matters if they're
you
dealing
believe
a
in-
single deck, right?
No, it matters with 8 deck.
Oh, really?
They use 8 or 10 decks.
Yeah.
But that is the only way that you affect. You don't know how you affect it. But
Right.
I don't like people who have wiffly waffly cuts.
Oh yeah, you just got to go for it.
Go for a decisive cut.
Yep.
None of this quantum bullshit.
Yep.
And then you play as a table. If it's you want with a good shoe, if everyone plays perfectly, you want the table as a whole to be better, be better than dealer. Most likely not. Dealer will probably win.
That's why it's called gambling, and Las Vegas participates in it.
Yes, exactly.
That's why all those casinos are built with cash.
Yeah.
And
No payments on the
Yeah.
Bellagio.
It was the last day there, and we just sat there for like 2 hours, and it was me, Joe, and Will before waiting for our cab to the airport. And
Yep.
I
had fun for about
blackjack.
45 minutes, and then it was a downward spiral from there. I remember why I don't gamble much.
It's good that you have that airport deadline. You can't sit there all afternoon.
That's true. I could have done bad things.
Keep digging your hole deeper.
If I had started drinking and gone in further, it would have been real bad. But so NAB was kind of interesting. We'd never been before, and it's a real serious business show. It's not like CES or E3 or something like that, where like it's a bunch of kind of shenanigans and fooling around. Like this was all like they have those big square cameras like they use on the Today Show, like the $450,000 cameras there set up, like aimed at all these fake sets. Like there's everywhere we went, pretty much, right, Norm? Mm-hmm. Fake sets as far as the eye can see. So you would see like the news camera people would have like a newsy kind of set, and the TV people would have like a Downton Abbey kind of set, and the sports guys would have like a sports store set up, and it was really crazy.
Why would the sports guys have a sports store set up?
I guess they couldn't put a stadium in the convention center.
A sports store?
Yeah, remember at Fuji they
I
had
remember
the
the
sports
store. I don't think
yeah.
those were for sports guys.
Those were sportsy cameras. They were long lenses and stuff.
Weird.
Yeah, it's real bizarre. And there's people in all these sets just sitting there all day long playing Uno and like blacksmithing or carpentering or something like it was a bizarre, weird. You're awfully quiet over there, Gary Weta.
I'm just taking it all in. I'm learning.
Way to interest Gary.
This much quiet from Gary leaves me a little bit unsettled.
I was getting a little disturbed too.
What I found is the less I say, the more information I can. I'd rather learn
funny how that works.
than impart. Yeah. One mouth and 2 ears, which means that listening is twice as important as speaking.
Have you been talking to self-help people or reading a book or something? What happened to you, man?
Just recalling my parents' homespun wisdom.
Oh, okay, very good. It's the two ears and one mouth thing. That means you can lose an ear and still function. It's you're redundant. It's like knees.
Yeah, there's a lot of redundancy.
Yeah. Let's see. We also
But if you lost your mouth,
you'd have to learn sign language or type.
how could you couldn't really lose your mouth though. I guess you could get shot in the throat. Or
Neo.
something.
You could lose
You
your
get it shown shut.
Roger Ebert lost his mouth.
Yeah, and he's never been more productive in his life.
Yeah.
I mean,
Lessons learned.
Yeah, if you can't talk, then you
See,
write
this
a
is
lot.
why I don't contribute because this is where we end up.
So let's see stuff we saw at NAB. I'll run through it real quick. We saw the Canon's new astronomy camera, which is pretty cool. Mm-hmm. We saw a SLR that shoots 11 frames a second, and Norm just abused it by holding the shutter down for like 45 seconds. Mm-hmm. We saw a bunch of fake sets. We took a video of that. It's really funny and dumb. What else? I feel like there was one other thing that I'm forgetting. We saw a bunch of 2K and 5K and 4K and 7K cameras that were really expensive, and then one that was kind of cheap.
I heard there was I read a couple of stories out of NAB that were very kind of 4K centric about how the industry is probably going to be trying to push 4K on people as the next thing sooner rather than later.
The content's already being produced, right? Like The Hobbit is being shot at. I mean, all that stuff is being shot at
films,
super high resolution.
Well, they have been for a while.
Yeah.
That content is always going to be available at that resolution at some point. The question is, how are they going to how easily are they going to get 4K TVs into people's homes, and when's that really going to start?
Well, so right now it seems like the 4K, 2K stuff is primarily aimed at cinema for the most part. The difference is that the 4K cameras have gotten kind of inexpensive. I mean, I think Sony has a 4K camera now that's like $7,000 or something like that, which seems like a lot of money to a normal person, but if you're looking at production costs,
that's not that much.
It's very low. Yeah. Red, of course, has stuff. The Blackmagic has a 2.5K camera that's $3,000 now. So they're looking at like indie filmmakers and almost down to home level at this point. And then there's SLRs as well that are doing like 1080p at high frame rates and things like that. It was interesting. I learned a lot more about filmmaking and jibs and booms and lights and stuff like that than I ever expected to.
How does 35 millimeter transfer to 4K? Like, is there enough detail there that it's seamless?
Yeah, in fact, I think it's quite a bit more than 4K.
Yeah.
The 35 millimeter.
Depends on the grain of the film, but yeah. So yeah, but if you look at the start of digital cinema, like Phantom Menace was shot at I think 1080p, right?
I believe that's right.
It's very low resolution.
I thought they shot that on film, right? I think it was
No,
the
they
second
shot
one.
it digital.
The second
No,
one. I'm
well,
pretty sure the second one is the one. The first one.
So
they shot
you're right.
digital.
The first one was on film. The digital bits were 1080p. Like the composited animation stuff
okay.
was all 1080p.
Yeah.
The second one was all digital, I think.
Okay.
So that was kind of cool. I'd never been there. I don't think we'll go again, probably. But I mean, I thought it was It was weird to go to CES and not see the Microsoft booth and the Intel. Like they had registration where the Intel booth is at CES.
I was very envious of your Planet Daily's return.
Yeah, we went
French toast.
Well, so we went to Planet Dailies and we had Secret Pizza. Two of the three must stops.
The two
in
best
Vegas.
things there.
Well, we didn't go to Lotus of Siam, so I was
Okay,
a
all
little
right.
bummed
Two of
about
the three
that.
best things there.
2 out of 3 can't be wrong. And then after that, we went to Portland to Coffeeville. To the SCAA show, which is the Specialty Coffee Association of America show. And Norm, how much coffee did you drink on the 4 days we were
Not
in Portland?
enough to kill me, but quite a lot. And it wasn't the quantity of coffee, but the quality of the coffee we drank. I didn't realize before we went on that trip, because Will and Joey went last year, and we did a montage video of how many cups of coffee Joey drank, and he was saying when you walk through SCAA, it's just like a normal convention floor, bigger than a ballroom, kind of big open room. People just hand you coffee, and it's kind of hard to believe. You're walking around and normally, and you see these booths, and people just hand you coffee.
Like they don't have booth babes. They just have a dude that stands out there and hands coffee to
They have
everybody who walks by.
Booth baristas.
Yeah.
Kind of, yeah.
Oh yeah, and they hire baristas from all over the country, and they have their little sign like where they work and what type of coffee they use, and they demo, the grinders and the brewers. And
So now, when you're walking around like this, and there's coffee basically being handed to you wherever you go,
You can't control
Do you
yourself.
have to pace yourself?
Yeah,
you,
absolutely.
well, that's the smart thing to do.
Yeah, I was going to
But-
ask what is the quantity per sample that you're getting?
Because if you
Or
were
like
to
tiny little
if you
paper
were to
cups,
drink
or-
every cup of coffee
Two
that was
sips.
offered to you, you'd probably be out of play by like lunchtime, right? You'd be
Yes.
gibbering on the floor.
Well, that,
Yeah,
that,
and not
that-
only are there the samples on the convention floor, there's also little kiosks where you can just
barista
order
bars. Yeah.
any coffee. It's like having a Starbucks, 4 different Starbucks in one convention hall, but it's all free.
Also, it's
and-
not Starbucks. It's much better.
I was
gas.
going to ask if like Starbucks and Pete's show up to this thing, or would they just get laughed out of the building?
Starbucks and Pete's have buyers and stuff there, but they don't generally bring like if this is a place where the baristas there are not the baristas that work the thing that has the button that automatically makes whatever coffee you press the button
I
for.
wouldn't call them barista, but
This is for there's still still mash pucks and all that stuff, but I mean it's not. This is for people who use manual precise machines.
Will's people.
and-
These people,
yeah, my people.
these people value their craft.
Yes,
is what you're saying.
they're
But it's
artisans.
not. But it's not like E3 where like you've got the massive Starbucks and
No.
Pete's booths in the
No,
middle,
no.
and then like the
there's
artisan
no
places
giant like
No, so-
scheduled
Got a
Starbucks,
Starbucks
show
village,
every
yeah.
half hour.
with like
Right.
three jumbo screens and
You walk into the Starbucks theater and there's a giant subwoofer under the floor. Just no, it's not like
2
that.
hour line for people to get into the secret room where they're demoing the latest coffee.
So the big booths here are probably like 40 feet, 20 feet by 20 feet. Like they're not. There's not a huge.
That's not very big.
Yeah, it's like the small part of Comic-Con, not like where the movie studios and Marvel and DC and all those guys are, but like off to the left of that. Back when you get into like the dudes that sell T-shirts and stuff like
And
that.
there are only about 10,000 people, including attendees and industry people
Yeah.
who attend, but it looks like a big convention
It's
for just
huge.
10,000 people.
I'd be very concerned about the overload thing because I don't know. I don't know what it's like for other people, but in my own experience, when you occasionally reach that point where you're very aware of the fact you had too much coffee,
Yeah, when you can feel the
It's-
hairs on your
and
arm.
you kind of have like that bad coffee trip, it's
Yeah.
not at all pleasant. It's
It
a
is
really horrible
not.
feeling.
It is the worst.
I don't
And
like it.
Will said he prepared for this show by amping up his coffee
I've been
intake.
cross training.
Cross-training coffee before Portland. And so he was all right. Being my first year, the first night, I was totally fucked up.
And also, protein is the key. That was that.
Yeah.
That was
I
the, that's the
didn't realize
magic
that
trick that
either.
I've. If you
Yeah.
ever, I learned this many years ago. I accidentally drank a whole pot of coffee.
It fell in your mouth.
Well, it's like many years ago, before I understood the potency of coffee, I ended up one day I just drank a whole pot of it. I had a coffee, one of those Mr. Coffee, where it just sits in
Yeah.
the pot, and I ended up drinking the whole pot. And next thing you know, I'm fucking freaking out. I'm paranoid. I feel like I keep thinking there's someone at the front door. Like I was having a
It's
really,
a
really,
bad trip.
yeah, it's a really
Like
unpleasant
looking
trip.
for
And I,
helicopters overhead.
yeah, exactly. And I actually ended up speaking to a friend of mine who was a very experienced coffee drinker, and he said, "Yeah, I know what you're going through." Like he kind of talked me down.
Eat an egg.
And said, if you have any like roast beef or like a can of tuna fish or something,
Really?
go eat that.
Yeah.
And it will. I don't know what the chemical thing is that happens, but it does help. It brings it's the only thing that will bring you down.
Wow.
And it settles the stomach too. So
Yeah.
that happened to me. So last year, the first day, we had a bunch of interviews lined up, and by the time I got to the 5th or 6th interview of the day, I had been drinking everything out of every sample I got.
Yeah.
And you can see the interview on the site. We actually ran it, but like it took probably 15 tries. Joey was laughing his ass off by the end. Before I could slow down enough to have a conversation with another human being. I think it's the Ranchilio temperature profiling espresso machine video.
It's something that you don't notice until after the fact. I've been looking at the videos from this year's SCAA, and since we shot those videos right after we were at NAB, the cadence of speech from NAB is accelerated
Everybody's
dramatically.
really excited.
Just Will talks really, really fast in all those interviews.
Yeah.
And the guy's just standing there going, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So, in addition to that, they have competitions and stuff like that. They have the Brewers Cup, which is my favorite, which is basically a pour over contest, right?
Yeah.
So it's people from different cafes, baristas, who come, and it's whoever can brew the best cups of coffee. And the judging for that's kind of neat because they have each judge is served from a different pot, so they have to make 3 separate servings of coffee within like 7 minutes or something, 8 minutes, whatever the timer is. And they all use different like crazy techniques. Like there's people that use AeroPresses, there's people that use Chemexes, there's people that use Hario V60s, there's people that do siphons. and you get to see a lot of different. Like it's basically like going to 50 different cafes and seeing their best barista making pour over coffee or brewed coffee.
So when Mo says there's competitions, it's not like you're on the convention floor and then suddenly at one booth there's a stage with a table and some dude making coffee. It's a separate room that is a stadium seating. So they have seats set up and they're not always filled, but there are multiple stages. And it's like a dog show where you walk around. And there's one stage with lots of signage, and 2 tables, 3 judges sitting on one side, and a dude who's making or girl making coffee, and they have like headsets, so they're on the loudspeaker describing their technique as they're making the coffee with a big LED timer behind them.
Well, describing the coffee and their technique. Yeah.
And then they have to make 3 cups of coffee all in 8 minutes, and they bring all their equipment. So they have the grinder, they have the scales, they have the crafts, everything, and it is a show. It's just like a presentation.
Now on the other side is the Barista Championship stuff, which I think is a little, I don't want to say douchey, but it's a little douchey.
Just say it.
So it is they're wearing the flannel or the plaid, right? You got those like the thick glasses.
Hold on, we should describe what the contest is.
And the tattoos on these baristas, and they do, it's like a Iron Chef style show. Or presentation,
kind of, yeah. But the reason I don't like it is because they choose music and like there's a whole
experience.
Like, it's the music that makes it bad. Actually, let's be absolutely. Because
what's wrong with the music?
It's an excuse to show how cool you are.
So the barista isn't just making.
Isn't that like coffee shops?
That's
in
all.
general?
Yeah,
That's the
that's
thing.
all part of the coffee
I
lifestyle,
know,
right?
but the point of my feeling is that the point of the competition should be the coffee,
Which is why Will likes the
No,
Brewers
it's a
Cup.
lifestyle, dude.
No, it's the barista.
I know,
the barista championship.
anyway.
You have the whole setup, and it really is like a Chopped or an Iron Chef, where they have the 20 minutes to make their specialty.
It's 3 things: espresso, cappuccino, and then a specialty beverage.
Yeah, so it's like the 3 courses that you get.
And the specialty beverage is like what you get at the Slow Bar or something like that at Four Barrel or Blue Bottle. So it's a custom beverage. Sometimes it has like sometimes it has like a soda element. Sometimes it has like extracts and elixirs and stuff like that. That part I think is cool. I think everything relating to the coffee is great. I think the talking and the music make it weird.
But what kind of
they
music
tell
are
a
they
story.
playing?
They tell a story.
Like alt rock, indie.
Yeah, and then they like
music?
click the button, and then as they begin their presentation, like they have like musical cues with their Bon Iver, and then and then
so it's kind of like figure skating.
It's like figure skating, but coffee.
Like there's
yes.
it's all in time with the music.
It is very like it's timed to the music.
But the crescendo of the music is when the pot's
Is it kind of like Tom
boiling
Cruise behind the bar in Cocktail, like spinning bottles around while there's like rock music playing? and stuff?
No, it's not rock music. It's all mopey indie music for the most part. I like one day somebody's gonna come in there and bust out some like Motley Crue or
like
something.
what kind of
weird and old.
artists? Give me a couple of artists
Bon
that would be.
Iver and Royal Alberta Advantage and of Montreal and
No, I haven't heard of any of them.
right
So yeah,
exactly. It's all people that the Skrillex crowd would have been pissed off at after the Grammys last year.
Relax.
So yeah, that was SCAA. We saw that. Let's see, what else did we do in Portland? We went to ground control and met up with a bunch of tested audience members. Tested peeps.
Yeah, how was your meetup? I saw you.
It was fun, man. We went. Basically, the ground control dudes were awesome. Art at Ground Control saved us a table on Saturday night.
What is that? An arcade kind of place?
Yeah. So Ground Control is a pretty good. I would say one of the better remaining arcades that I've been to. They have probably like 70 or 80 machines in there and a bunch of pinball tables.
They have a lot of classic arcades. It's not just like one of those pizza places or bars that buys the latest arcade. Or even that secret pizza place where they have Galaga, it is like it's a new version.
It's a Midway machine,
right?
Yeah.
So these are like
Midway,
the classic
Namco.
machines, and it's a bar, and they have pinball upstairs. I mean, they pay a lot of attention to detail. So the tables they have are like these glowy, like
they look like light tables.
Yeah,
Is it like Dave
being
and
Tron.
Buster's?
No, much better than Dave and Buster's.
It's like being in the Tron arcade.
Wait, the sentence makes no sense.
Gary, Dave and Buster's is crap.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. So this place, they had they had old, like I think the newest machine they had probably was that Pac-Man 4-player versus machine. And then before that, it was like an MK3 machine maybe.
So they have the original Tron, they have discs of Tron. They have a row just of like the Donkey Kong original Mario Brothers arcade.
Yeah. It's like a hipster arcade.
It is a total hipster arcade. You have I've actually never played it. The cool widescreen fighting games, the brawlers.
Oh,
so
yeah.
like the X-Men. And
I like those.
You've never seen those?
But there are 2 screens
you're too
using
young.
mirrors, and so it's widescreen. It's 2 CRTs.
Yeah,
you don't
that's
see the
classic.
seam in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never played one of those.
And you could put 6 people on them.
Yeah, 6 people.
That was like $3 a round.
So how many tested fans showed up?
We had like 15 or 20 people show up. It was really a good turnout.
Okay.
And we played a lot of that 4-player versus Pac-Man game, which is kind of like Championship Edition, but not at all. Like it speeds up a little bit, and you start with a very tight, constrained initial map. But the goal is to be the last pack standing. And there's ghosts and pellets and the whole 9 yards, and the layout of the pellet changes like it does in Championship Edition. But you don't have quite the same acceleration and time dilation stuff that you had in Championship.
What's the name of
Edition
that?
too.
I'm not familiar. with that.
I think it's just I'm not sure. I think it's Pac-Man. I'm sure it's we used to have a website for this, but I don't know where you'd go for that kind of information now.
I'll look into that.
I think it's Pac-Man versus.
Okay.
Is my guess, but it's a weird. So it's set into a tabletop, and you're kind of looking down. Everybody's looking down at the same board. It was really good. We had a lot of fun with that, and played some pinball. They had a House of Magic. No, the one with the box that spins and eats the balls. Pinball machine. The famous pinball machine. It's the one that I started saying House of. And I completely, it's House of Fashion.
I want to say that's in
Cindy.
that pinball arcade.
It is in the
game.
pinball
It is.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
can't remember the name of it, but yeah.
Good pinball selection. And then we went to a bar the next day where there was a pinball machine. I was blown away by that. I hadn't seen one of those in years that was working. So, no, that was at Voodoo Donuts when you and Joey were in the car. So we went to Voodoo Donuts. We had like crazy donuts with cereal and Oreos and bacon and stuff on top. Very
Serious
highly
business.
recommended.
It's donuts.
I went to a couple coffee shops downtown.
Yeah, so at the coffee convention, even outside the coffee convention, there are coffee shops. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
Portland's a big coffee city.
Yeah. So we had the whole Portland experience. Norm took us over to the Hawthorne. What's the
Hawthorne
name?
area.
Hawthorne
Yeah.
area. We had waffles. It was like sweet and
Best,
savory,
one of the
really
best
good waffles.
porchetta sandwiches I've had.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah, we had truck food. We were accosted by bums. Like we had the whole thing.
It was the whole experience.
Yeah, we rode the train. We're like locals.
Now, is this fine brew that you've provided us? Is this in any way a product of that coffee convention?
No, this is Ritual Rwandan.
This is the last of
This is the
Will's
last of my
child
Rwandan.
soldier army coffee.
Did you pick up any tips there though?
Oh, of course. I mean, that's so we talked to one of the people we talked to is the girl who won the World AeroPress Championship. So we talked to her about like tips for making AeroPress coffee. I mean, we talked to a bunch of people about different techniques and equipment and all that kind of stuff. There's videos on the site. You can
So,
check it
Will,
out.
did you get jacked up, or did your preparation insulate you from that?
I was faster. I talked, as Norm said, I talked faster than I normally do.
Doesn't it seem like that's the thing is though? Isn't everyone at the same level at this coffee convention? Isn't it just like
Pretty much.
10,000 people that are
No,
all
it's
equally
like
jacked up?
do the drug dealers use their stuff?
Oh yeah,
I
you never get high on your own supply.
Yeah, it's a good policy. What was the best coffee you had that weekend, Norm?
There's a really good. I love them at the Barista bars. There's one macchiato I got that was really good. I forget what it was though.
I like.
I think it was Brazilian coffee.
That I don't know if you had any, but at the Baratza booth that day, we had the Royal Brewing Company, which is out of some little town in Portland. The barista there made a coffee that tasted like blueberries and was pretty awesome.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just coffee. They had some tea stuff there. One of the bigger booths was Zojirushi. So
Yeah.
we saw the new Zojirushis. And
Oh, well, like that sounds interesting.
thermoses?
Sounds like you
Uh-huh.
buried the
New
lead.
thermoses.
The 2012 line.
Yeah.
That's why we saw that, and they also have rice cookers, so we saw them too.
I'm more of a Tiger man on the rice cooker side.
Has
Really?
has the classic Zodruchi flask evolved or something? Is there a new
The
model?
lid is changing. So
Okay.
I have the old style lid. I think the new style lid for the thermal mug is out now. You can buy if you go to Amazon and buy that. It's today. It's no change in design. The plastic is shiny instead of kind of matte.
Okay.
No difference there. We saw some twist off lid stuff.
yeah, they have different textures on the
Some
side of the
carafes.
bottles. And, yeah.
Yeah, it was a good good visit. It was nice to see those guys. Let's see, what else did we see? I think that's pretty much it. Well, we had one other secret stop in Portland that we're probably. I mean, we can talk about it if you want, or we could save it. It's up to you. I leave it on you,
because I think
Jen.
you're
forget.
you're not going to remember all the cool details from it.
I stood on top of a nuclear reactor last Saturday morning.
Only Will stood. We all. Stood
Yeah,
on
we
top
all stood.
of
Did
a
Joey get on
nuclear-
top too?
We all.
He seemed a little
stood.
nervous.
We all. Where did he take the photos from? Where did
I
he take
guess
the videos
that's true.
from?
I haven't seen the video
So
yet.
what is this?
So Reed College, which is where Steve Jobs went to school when he was in school.
We went to Reed College to pay tribute to Steve Jobs.
No, we didn't.
Where he went to school, where he didn't graduate or get a diploma.
You sprinkle some holy water.
Yeah, talk to his professor. It's got some of
left
that
my classic
magic.
iPod.
Right.
No, so they have a research reactor, a nuclear reactor that they use for like dating,
A teaching reactor.
basically, yeah. They use it to do everything like date things, to figure out compositions of chemical compounds and stuff like that. I don't want to say it's common, but there's probably 30 or 40 of them in the United States.
There are 30 of them that are research reactors. This
Right.
part of in 1968, after obviously World War II and nuclear being a thing, and there's a lot of fears
During the nuclear age?
the Cold War nuclear age, the U.S. government wanted to get research reactors out in public to educate people about the safety of nuclear power.
Right.
Which they have apparently not done a very good job of.
Well, because
the public does not seem convinced.
No. I mean, there are nuclear power plants in the United States that actually are used for power.
Yeah.
These are not used for power. So this company, I think General Atomics, makes a class.
That's an awesome name for a company, by the way.
Yeah,
It is a good name.
They make these
Very
trigger
60s.
reactors, which is an acronym for something, but they're very.
Training, research, something, General Atomics.
But there is uranium in there, and they generate anywhere from 100 kilowatts to 2 megawatts.
This
Yeah, I
one
mean,
was
presumably
250 kilowatts.
even these kind of just college reactors have to have pretty heavy security
Yeah.
around them. I would
well,
So we can't talk about that.
I mean,
They wouldn't talk about security stuff at all.
There are some.
imagine. Well, no, but I think it's safe to assume that there is some.
There were
There
cameras
is-
and pads
there
and all
definitely
that
there
stuff
is definitely
everywhere.
security. But if you go on the website, they do offer tours, and it is something that's been running for 40 years. What's interesting about the one at Reed College is that it's all run by students, undergrads. So the school is about 1,500 people, which is tiny for
It's
a
a
college.
small liberal
it's
arts
a
college.
very your typical liberal arts college, massive campus, but only 1,500 students. It's like smaller than high schools. And they have 40 people, they induct 15 students a year into their program to learn and get trained and certified to run their nuclear reactor.
So they get a license from the Nuclear Regulatory Commission
Right.
that says, "Hey, this person is allowed to run this reactor." Like they know everything that they need to do to be the reactor runner. And there's 2 levels of certification. One is like a normal runner person, and the other is like senior. So like one level is in charge, and one level is just the dudes who run the day-to-day stuff.
But it's when you think nuclear reactor, you watch movies and stuff.
I think of The
or
Simpsons.
You think of The Simpsons. You think
Yeah.
of someone in a control room, right? And then you get guys in hazmat suits and glowy rods and everything. And then we're not going to be able to get close to that at all. But it's not like it's actually just a room that's probably like 3 times the size of this room.
It's like half a basketball court.
Yeah, very tall ceilings, but a giant 25-foot deep pool with water in it.
Yeah.
And the reactor's just there. And
Like
they
you could look down through the water and you see this donut with a circle with a bunch of like rods, like dots basically sticking out of the top, and that's the reactor at the bottom of
And
this pool.
They turn off the lights, and then it glows blue because it is generating
Chirconov radiation.
250,000 watts of power,
Yeah.
cooled by 25,000 gallons of water, and then all that radiation's shielded by the water, and we stood there and looked at it.
Is there a
Shots of
time
video.
limit that you can safely stand near that thing before you have to leave? Is it actually? Are you?
We were there.
becoming-
So they
are you
gave us.
becoming irradiated
Well, so we should
to
talk
any
about
extent?
the whole thing. Like when we went in, we got the briefing. Like the here's what's okay to touch. Here's what's not okay to touch. That kind of stuff. They gave us these little radiation sensors.
They were
They looked like a beeper.
pagers, yeah.
And then we walked in. Then they were like, "Do you want to go into the room with the reactor?" We're like, I don't, okay, is that safe? So we talked about how the theory of the reactor and all that, and nuclear fission, how that works. And the idea basically is the reason it's in a big pool of water is not only does that keep it cool when it warms up and keeps it from overheating, but it also it facilitates the nuclear reaction. Without the water in the tank, without water in a specific temperature range, the reaction stops working. It becomes much less efficient, and the reactor will kind of cool down naturally. And then the other thing it does is it blocks the neutrons, because the bad radiation that comes out of a nuclear reactor is in the form of neutrons when you're talking about this kind of a reactor. So what the water does is captures and blocks the neutrons, and when you talk about like heavy water and things like that they used in the Manhattan Project and other nuclear stuff, that is water that has hydrogen atoms. It's deuterium water, right? So it has hydrogen atoms with an extra neutron attached, and they're basically making a tiny amount of heavy water in that tank all
But
the time.
in that giant room, I mean, you have all this equipment that says radioactive.
Yeah, there's like things with spinny red
Contaminated
lights
areas,
and
you're looking at your pager, checking it from time to time, making sure you're still at 0.0.
0.0 is where you want to be.
Yeah.
Did it ever go above? Did you ever feel unnerved?
0.1 is, I think, okay.
Yeah.
Well, so
And-
it's millirems.
Yeah.
So like up to 5 rem, 5 millirems.
It's very much like Fallout. Geiger counters everywhere. Everything. A lot of ticking.
What they said
Just
was
take some Rad-X before you go in there.
Yeah.
exactly.
Should be good.
What they said was the amount of radiation we got in that room was roughly, we would have gotten more by being at 35,000 feet on the flights to Vegas and Portland than we got in that room.
Yeah. It was very, very safe.
Just absorbing, like, so is that solar
Yeah, I
radiation?
mean, presumably the
just
people that are
absorbing,
actually
yeah.
running the reactor are in there much longer than
Yeah.
any visitor is.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Well, there's different requirements for radiation exposure for visitors and people who are like working there long term.
Right.
But the people who work there long term were wearing 2 different kinds of radiation detectors. They had these rings on that used one mechanism to detect radiation, and then they also had like the traditional kind of badge thing that you've seen. And what part of being licensed by the NRC is that they track your radiation exposure over your entire career,
Right.
So you don't ever go beyond it because
And everything is logged. Like when we walked in, we all had to sign our names, and then they had to check our radiation count before and after, and everything's on a notebook.
right. Like they ran Geiger counters over all of Joey's equipment to make sure that like nothing radioactive had splashed onto him from like the water
Don't want
wasn't
that radioactive
particularly
splash.
radioactive, but like they didn't want to make sure that we'd picked up a piece of dust or something that would slowly give Joey hand cancer over the next 30
Serious
years.
business.
Yeah, it was really cool. I have to say, when they turned the lights off and fired the reactor up and the blue Cherkanov radiation started coming from the reactor, it's fucking unbelievable. Like, so that's something I never ever thought I would get to see. And it was really, really cool. So Norm said this before. This isn't a reactor they use to generate power. It's purely like it's tuned to inject certain things with neutrons, certain parts of the reactor with neutrons. So what that means is that they can put a sample of something that they want to know. Say somebody in the art department has a pottery shard that they want to know how old it is. They take the or where it came from, for example. They take the pottery shard, put it into a space in the reactor, and then put it in another thing called a gamma spectroscope that tells them the exact composition of that shard. And with that information, and with other shards that they know, like they know where in Mesopotamia, pottery with this particular breakdown of, it's essentially a fingerprint. They can tell that
It's very CSI.
at this particular place, because they can get an exact chemical composition of the shard and the dyes used on the paint or whatever they're doing. They can tell, oh, this was probably made at this period here at this specific place because this is where everything that has cadmium in the fake example, cadmium in the dye in this percentage came from.
The best part was
and
that
it's non-destructive.
the equipment's cool, technology's cool, but it was also all run by like undergrads, 18, 22-year-olds.
It's like a
That's,
club.
I mean, that would make me a bit nervous.
And
Like, so I'm
these
sure
are
they
the
have all
most-
these systems in place, but still, that seems a bit wacky.
And there's one advisor who is this on staff to teach these students.
Yeah.
But walking in, they're the oldest person in the room outside of us was like and the advisor
23
was
maybe?
22, and there were
Yeah.
a dozen of them just running around, running a nuclear reactor.
It was like a college club.
Yeah.
But with certifications, stuff like that. I think they said they have between 40 and 80 people sign up every year for 15 to try out basically for the 15 positions.
It's very much
and-
real genius.
Yeah, it was kind of a real genius-y situation where like everybody was into their own thing. It was very cool. It was a really neat. It was a very liberal arts college experience. But I thought I think it's a neat project. So we got to see that, and there'll be video of that coming up. I don't know if it'll be up next week. I hope so,
week.
but. Stay tuned on the site and we'll tweet about it and stuff like that. I thought it was a pretty cool spot. And if you know of a spot like that you think we should go see, that's cool and sciencey, send us a note and we'll go check it out. It's podcast@tested.com. Should we talk about news?
Why not?
Sure.
Brad?
Before we get into the news,
Yeah,
being in your house here is very
Yeah.
liberating. I feel very free here.
you can take your pants
Free-
off if you
free
want.
en- Free
Go
enough
for
to
it,
tell
man.
you that I really have to pee.
Oh, okay. Well, Brad will be back in just a moment.
Coffee. So
Yeah, the coffee. Well, that's the other side effect. Coffee just goes right through you.
don't talk about asteroids yet.
Brad of the 3-minute bladder.
Oh dear.
Okay, so
All right. So what's up?
I
What's
think
the big news?
big tech news this week probably is Google Drive. I think, don't you think, Norm?
That's the story I've seen the most of this week.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a big surprise, but sure.
No, so well, okay. There some stuff happened in the storage, like the cloud storage space this week. Dropbox had some new stuff added. Do you want to go over that real quick?
Do you know what it is?
No.
Okay.
You wrote the story.
They add public sharing for every file.
Oh, right. You can generate a public link for anything in your Dropbox. Okay, that's good. SkyDrive did some new stuff.
Yep. There's a desktop app for SkyDrive.
So it works like Dropbox does now?
Yep.
You get a folder on your machine that syncs? Oh, that's nice. And then Google Drive launched. So Google Drive, it seems like it's kind of absorbing like Google Docs and some other stuff. And there's a fair amount of controversy around it. But what does it actually do? How does it actually work?
Just like Dropbox. Local folder, desktop app, system tray.
Then you get 5 gigs free, and it looks like it's like $3 a month for 50 gigs and $5 a month for 100 gigs.
Yep.
Seems pretty straightforward.
It's just Google Docs, but now on your desktop. And those files don't actually save to your desktop because Google doesn't have a proprietary file format. They're just, a desktop file format.
So is it just a
all
shortcut?
web, just a shortcut. To
Oh,
your
that's
online
weird.
Files.
Oh, I don't like that. I like having files on my desktop.
But
and
if you
on
upload
the
to Google
server.
Drive, then those are real files. But if you create a Google Doc or a Google spreadsheet, those are just links.
That's weird. Seems like that should be.
They want you to be on the website.
No, I understand that, but it seems like there's a better way to do that. The controversy around Google Drive is, of course, with the ownership of content. Their terms of service basically say that anything that you make public, they can use for whatever purpose they want.
They don't own it.
They don't own it.
But they can use it for ads, and they can use it. They can
Promotional materials. It a lot of times this stuff kind of seems like it happens when lawyers get crazy when they're writing terms of services. But we haven't heard any official comment from Google about whether this is as intended, or I think they're waiting to see if it's going to blow over.
I think the Google PR has responded, and if all the excerpts from the terms of service omit the top line, which is that they don't own anything. So they don't own any.
Some of the
stuff.
language seemed very over aggressive though. Like we reserve the right to perform, publish this content. So like for a creative professional like me, or let's say for example I'm writing a novel or a screenplay and I'm keeping it in that folder. Understandably, if the language isn't very clear, you might be concerned that they feel that they have some rights over that content.
Well, but it's my understanding that only applies if you make it public, right?
I don't know.
If you flip the public link. I think that's what the R story said, and they usually get details right on this kind of stuff.
Okay.
So, I mean, I don't know. A lot of times that stuff gets overblown. Like, the question I have is, I'm really happy with Dropbox. I pay them $10 a month and have like 80 gigs of storage or something ridiculous now.
Dropbox is great.
Do you guys feel like there's
I
a
use 4
place?
services. Yeah,
Really?
absolutely. I don't think it's mutual. I don't.
What's the fourth?
I use Box.net. I use Dropbox. I use SkyDrive, and I use Google Drive now.
So what
I
are you
have 4
using the
systems
different?
on my phone.
What are you using the different places?
Dropbox for work because that's what everyone here at Works uses.
Okay.
I use Box.net for comics and music for my iPad because I just download the app and I can sync stuff and it's a local file. Google Docs for
And can you get it into like your comic reader and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
It pushes from the iPad app.
Well, that's nice.
And then SkyDrive for whatever Microsoft stuff I need.
Well, because I
Photos
mean,
and
with
stuff.
Windows 8, we'll all have SkyDrive built.
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't think it's one of those things like unlike music where you want to have all your music on Google Music or on Amazon cloud storage, right? Where because you want one app to play your music because that's what you want to pick from that selection. I don't think of files that way. I don't think I need all my work files plus all my personal files in one folder at a time. I can pick and choose which app I use for those folders, and it's free. I don't have to pay the $10 a month. I get 25 gigs from Microsoft, 18 gigs from Dropbox, and 5 gigs from Google Drive.
it seems like the analogy is more AIM than docs, than music. Yeah. Because like if you're looking at instant messaging, I have instant message accounts on all the services because like I know one dude who's only has an MSN account, and when I want to talk to him, then I have to fire up MSN. So I mean, I guess it's just
different way to get more space.
Metaphor, yeah,
and different way to store.
I mean, it's another 5 gigs of storage for free, and if you're like me and you like the idea of multiple redundancies, there's that too. But I can't think of a reason why I would switch from one to the other. Because
you're not going to stop using one. And I like this competition because each of the services offers different amounts of free storage. You don't want to pay. They each have different limitations. So how much you can upload from the web versus how much you can upload from a desktop app. They have different benefits. Like with SkyDrive and Google Docs, I can edit those files.
Don't forget, you also have
web.
iCloud. There's another.
And there's
5 gigs.
iCloud for photos. That's what and backups for iOS stuff. So there's no reason, as long as you have RAM, to just run stuff in your system tray, and the stuff doesn't run all the time on your mobile device. You just have the apps installed.
Did they fix the 50 megabyte max file size problem on SkyDrive yet?
SkyDrive, you have 2 gigs of max file size.
Okay.
300 megs you upload from the web.
Because for a long time it was 2 gig, 50 megabyte was the max file size.
50
and
gig
that was
still
a
is
little weird.
box.net.
It's interesting that you mentioned the instant messaging analogy because there you have stuff like Adium and Pigeon that kind of seamlessly aggregates all of the services into one.
That's true.
So that's what we're going to
unified
see next,
interface.
and
So
it's
that's-
really
that's-
easy
that's
to
my
do
question.
on the desktop
You
side.
think there'll be like a meta Dropbox that
yeah.
just unifies?
That's
Why,
a good
why,
idea,
why not
yeah.
a desktop app? I mean, because it's all just folders on your desktop. It doesn't even need to tap in those APIs. They'll just look for certain types of files, the way you organize them, and just.
Well, you
put
can do
them
that with
in.
My Folders right now. Like
Yeah.
literally, there's an app on Windows that you can say, look at this folder and put all the music files here and all the photos here and all the blah blah blah.
Yeah, without being redundant on the desktop side, but
Yeah.
redundant on the cloud side.
Well, and the other thing is that, but there's no reason somebody couldn't make a universal client for at least for Google, at least for Dropbox and SkyDrive because they both have open APIs. So somebody could make a I don't think that there's a Google Drive API yet. Google's bad about
They
APIs.
will have
it
lots of
seems
apps.
like. Yeah. So it's out for Windows, Mac, iOS, Android, not for iOS yet, but they said it's coming soon. So
Sorry if you covered this. How are they letting people into that thing? Because I don't think I'm
Randomly.
eligible.
It seems
it's
the
just
normal
random.
trickle.
When they announce it, you log on, you
You
check
go to your Google one day and it's there.
Okay.
You know.
I
go to
I got
docs.google,
it this morning when I logged on.
Okay.
and it was there or it's not.
And
Some
it
people got yesterday.
replaces in your little Google bar at the top there where it used to say documents. It'll now say Drive.
Yep. Yeah.
So your
Absolutely.
Google Docs has
Drive.
basically evolved into Google Drive.
I miss Google.
Watch out, Brad.
Docs.
You got a camera on you.
All right,
Yeah.
never mind.
Good save, Norman Chan.
I won't type my password.
Let's talk
Yeah,
about
watch that.
Let's talk about crazy space future asteroid mining nonsense.
I think this is the biggest news.
I
this
agree,
week.
and this is the only reason that not
Oh, thanks,
the
Brad.
only reason that I'm here. It's,
Wow.
but I mean, I didn't get the invite from you to be on this podcast until about 2 hours ago.
Well, I invited you last night. Thank you very much.
Oh, well, I didn't see it until I got up this morning.
Oh, well.
And I was like, I got all this work to do. But then I remembered what happened this week, and I was like, I can't not be there for that.
I liked the 3-minute turn because literally you went from no, I can't do it, I got too much work to do to 3 minutes later. Wait, what time are you guys going to be done? Doors opened. Bradcast. Okay, asteroid mining. So the story is Jim Cameron, Sergey Brin, Eric Schmidt.
Jim Cameron has no money in it.
Oh, he has no money.
Are you sure?
God, no.
He's just
The
lending
news
his
this
name.
very morning said he was an investor.
He's an advisor.
An advisor.
He's on the committee,
but
advisory
no money.
committee. Not on their website at least. So what happened last week was that crazy rumor went out that there's a new company being formed called Planetary Resources, and the crazy headline was billionaires want to go to space, right? And you're thinking, oh, space tourism is back, right? But no, it's space mining, and it's founded by these two guys. One guy,
Hold on. So you mean asteroid mining? This is a classic science fiction trope, right? This is untapped resources buried in the asteroid belt between Earth and Mars.
Nope.
Between Mars and Jupiter. Sorry.
Yes.
No,
Oh, but they want to do near Earth
the
asteroids,
only
right?
near Earth.
Okay.
It's
Anyway.
not going out very far.
So
Well, they're all offshoots from that belt.
yeah.
So, Planetary Resources, it's the dude who founded the SpaceX, or the X Prize.
And sorry.
The X Prize, I
Okay.
think. And then also the dude who founded Space Adventures. So, the company that sends billionaires
like
to space.
like Warren Spector.
Not Warren Spector, Richard Garriott.
Richard Garriott.
We got to stop doing these podcasts early in the morning. You got your chance. Well,
Yeah,
a chance to wake up.
I got nothing going here. I didn't have coffee before you got here, Gary. So, okay.
So-
Start chugging that coffee.
Hold on. Who's Warren Spector? Is the Deus Ex guy?
Yeah.
Yes.
With
And
the
Richard
beer.
Garriott's the Ultima guy.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Oh.
Richard Garriott's one who hosts the fancy
He has
parties.
the rat tail.
The crazy
At
parties.
one time, yeah.
Okay.
They're both game gods. So.
I almost said Warren Ellis, which would have been really bad. Go ahead.
Moving on.
Wow.
Mistakes were made.
It's almost as bad as time my friend rented Constantine thinking it was Alexander, but really wanted to see Troy.
Wow.
Wow.
That's really bad.
Yeah.
Okay.
So planetary resources. And
So this is run by people who know space.
who know space, and they have
not to get ahead
they have
of ourselves,
NASA astronauts.
but hopefully are respectful toward space.
It is a private business
yeah.
with investors such as Eric Schmidt and Larry Page from Google. So we're talking about billionaires, a bunch of other investors from the tech sector, retired people, ex-Microsoft people, and a board of advisors, which includes James Cameron and some other notable, adventurers and astronomers, astrophysicists. private enterprise to develop the spacecraft and the technology to mine these near Earth asteroids. It just sounds crazy because we haven't been to the moon, and we're talking about going to Mars in the long term, and we've heard about all these budgetary problems with NASA, but these people have money. I mean, we talked about last week. If we had $500 million from Instagram, what would you do? Well, this is something you could do with it.
I'd buy Disneyland.
So
these people have money, and it's not like they're just throwing it away for the sake of exploration. So presumably, when you're talking about mining, there is some.
They're talking about making
there's some
money.
presumed back end.
So the goal is they were looking at some specific elements in the platinum group or palladium group. Platinum, cadmium, palladium, things that are somewhat
Iridium.
rare here.
Yep.
Yeah, 'cause
pretty expensive.
You know what's interesting? I saw a piece the other day about why the iPhone, iPad, smartphones in general are really made in China. It's not just because of the labor cost issue, but also because a lot of these rare earth materials can only be found there.
Right.
Yeah, they're mined there. A lot of them are actually mined, especially from the platinum group in South Africa.
Yeah.
So we're talking about in terms of how many resources are mined on Earth, like 200,000 tons or kilograms of these materials, which sounds like a lot, but for every iPhone and for every piece of electronic, all the transistors, all the solder, everything that needs it.
And there's a finite number of amount of this resource.
Well, we're not near running out.
No.
But it is expensive.
Well, and we every piece we take out removes one of the pieces of low hanging fruit, essentially.
So how do you mine an asteroid?
Well, so hold on. I want to talk about the because the interesting thing about this is the whole reason behind this is they're looking at what happened when aluminum got cheap. When aluminum got cheap at the turn of the 19th century, it opened the door to everything from commercial aviation to all sorts of other stuff. It all happened because
at one
of this
point,
refining
aluminum
process.
was more expensive than gold.
Right, because they couldn't basically aluminum's tied up in this stuff called bauxite, and nobody had figured out how to extract it in the normal traditional smelting ways.
Yeah.
So what they're looking at is if they can take platinum and palladium and cadmium and all these other things that are not super precious on Earth right now and are in pretty good supply, but bring them down to the cost of aluminum now, then that opens the door for massive advances in manufacturing and materials.
Yes.
Sorry, continue.
So, but that's like decades and decades off. And getting to these asteroids, so there are about like 7,000 to 9,000 of these near-Earth asteroids that astronomers have been watching, and we know of them. They're all named. They're all
So they share an orbit basically, or intersect the orbit. Is that the
they're
designation?
they're all within a certain distance from Earth.
Okay.
And some of them are near-Earth asteroids that that fall. They're comets that they orbit around Earth and then they leave Earth orbit and they come back because of gravity and stuff.
This is the having more satellites than just the moon thing.
Yeah,
basically.
kind of like that.
Okay.
We know what they're made of. I mean, we know that there are metals on these asteroids and there's potentially water on these asteroids, and they're well within reach. I mean, that Lego craft that you have,
It's over there.
behind you, the Hayabusa one
Yes.
from Japan, that was the first man-made craft that landed on an asteroid and scraped up some particles.
Did it land on it or smash into it?
No, it kind of like just grazed it.
Okay.
But
they can tell what asteroids are made of by using spectroscopy and all sorts of other
exactly.
stuff too. Yeah.
So they're going to build rockets. There are already private rockets available. They're going to build the robots. They're going to send the rockets out into space to create satellites to monitor these asteroids before the end of the decade. Then develop the robots to send to the asteroids and collect the platinum and palladium and iridium.
So are they looking is this? So they're not looking at changing the orbit of the asteroids.
They're
to
not
bring
bringing
them closer to
no,
us
no,
or anything
it's
like that.
all
They're
going to be
gonna-
mined, but on the asteroid. I mean, they're still developing techniques. The problem is that it's not like a mine.
Yeah.
So it's not like you can land on an asteroid, dig deep like Bruce Willis, and then just get your platinum. There are little pockets of it because the asteroids are
chunks.
There's chunks everywhere. So you have to really scrape, find the holes of the asteroid, and it's not just like one place. So
What about
it's gonna be
giant
very
space worms?
No,
Not a
space
real
worms.
thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Empire Strikes Back.
I don't know. Neil Tyson was on the news yesterday saying that a lot of these asteroids are stratified like planets. Like a lot of the elements are separated into layers. But
Some the bigger ones, yeah, because that's the way gravity works and density of the materials. But I mean, over the 9,000 near-Earth asteroids, they're going to find the good ones to mine.
And how did these asteroids, like, are these asteroids that happen when something smashed into Earth and then bits flew off into space?
It's essentially the elements of a planet that never fully formed.
Okay.
Yeah.
So not enough material to actually collect more material.
Right.
To become a planet.
And I think I might be wrong about this, but Jupiter's kind of excess gravitational influence on stuff has it kind of thrown a lot of stuff off too.
It seems like you'd have to do some incredibly complicated P&L equations to figure out if this how this actually
the
works. Right? I
spreadsheet,
mean,
like
the cost of sending
10
something up to do this is, I imagine, very difficult to compute.
It's about $10,000 a pound to
Right.
launch something off of the Earth.
So,
right now.
so what you're able to bring back has got to be more than that, right? And how do they? It seems like you're never going to be sure exactly how
so
much money
their
you're going to make doing this.
their cost analysis right now is, for a shuttle to send, for NASA to send a shuttle for the whole mission, it's $400 million. They think that they can get it down with privatized rockets to about $10 million per rocket, and they're going to send multiple rockets up with low loads, but they're not going to need to send. It's going to be cheaper because they're not sending humans. It's just I mean, we send satellites up on rockets all the time. And
Right, a lot of the stuff, a lot of the.
But then
the
how do
mass-
you get the minerals back here?
So
Parachute.
half their goal is to get the minerals back, and half of it is just to collect it in space, so they can collect the valuable resources in space to sell to governments when space programs need to use them. For example, water. So they're going to look for the ice deposits on asteroids.
So this is a very forward-thinking program.
Yeah.
Then. Okay.
So they're thinking. I mean, they're calling it like gas stations, space gas stations.
Well,
If they-
because it's much more valuable outside that gravity well.
So
because
instead of spending-
because you don't have to pay that cost to get it.
$10,000 for a pound of water to ship that out into space.
Right.
You build infrastructure to mine asteroids and get deposits of water in these gas stations.
This is something I'd love to have seen on Shark Tank. There was actually a guy on Shark Tank quite recently that had some kind of I don't know if you saw this, but this insane energy system where you basically built these massive windmills out in the middle of the ocean. And he was saying that not only do you create energy, but also as a byproduct, you create thousands of tons of gold. Out of, what? It basically says if you put vast amounts of water in a centrifuge and spin it around really, really fast, you create these kind of mega hydrodynamic turbines, and also gold comes out. So it was the most insane.
Did they
Perpetual motion machine.
All the sharks were sitting there kind of baffled because they were like, I have no idea if you're a genius and this is like $1 trillion opportunity, or if you're just a complete whack job. Because the science was so out there, you would need an actual scientific expert to sit there and say this is madness, or actually he might be onto something.
Gave the idea away on TV.
Yeah, they call the investors sharks.
That's what the Shark Tank.
Shark Tank.
I'm a little
They're the
bummed. I thought
sharks.
that if you got gonged out,
Oh, you actually get thrown into
boom,
like there are actual
splash.
sharks that eat you.
Yeah.
No.
Scientific evolution.
So I mean, here's the thing about something like this: is it seems like this is one of those things that either is going to be a massive, massive success and is going to make them billions and billions of
Right, that's
dollars,
what I'm
like the
saying.
cellular network,
Yeah.
or it's going to be a
Or
huge failure.
everyone's gonna
like
get
the satellite
busted.
phone
Yeah.
network.
But if you are Eric Schmidt or Larry Page and you have billions
got
and
money to
billions of
spend.
dollars, and there's potential for a return of trillions of dollars, or at least developing cool
Or you get a
science and being a hero
yeah.
of science, why not?
You're looking at serious amounts of time before you see the first nickel back on any of this investment.
Oh, yeah.
though, sure.
well, I don't think they're looking for nickel.
Well, no, but I mean, even like it's if you're looking at your in and out column,
Yeah.
on this, there's going to be a
lot
shitload
of
of money
L.
going out before anything
Well,
starts coming
probably
back.
decades, right?
Yeah, a long time.
But if you're Sergey Brin or Eric Schmidt, then probably a little bit on the L column is nice for your accountants. Like that's something they're probably stoked about. You know, you can
makes
write it
sense.
off.
Plus, those guys are relatively young, right? Like they
it's-
can expect to live to see this come to fruition.
Fuck.
Oh,
I got to
great.
figure out what's wrong with this Mac.
How long has that been out?
Oh, fuck.
This is a good time for me to go get a Diet Coke because that's just too depressing. This happens every week.
I could pull it out of the Justin stream. So we lost like 10 minutes. Fuck beans. Okay.
Well, good thing I was spotted.
I'm glad you saw it. I can pull it out of the what do you call it though? Out of the Justin stream. Assuming that's good. Seems to still be going. We're a little low on disk space. Let me delete some stuff real quick, and then we'll carry on. Sorry. This is the problem with using IMAX for this shit.
Is that the one from work?
This is the one from work.
That's the one in the podcast room.
Yep.
Did this happen to you guys?
Oh, not anymore.
Well, no, I know you. I know you live in a magical wonderland full
Yeah,
of.
it did happen. With that
Remember,
machine,
it's important to remember that video is still live.
That's fine. Yeah, it happened with that machine from time to time. Are you on GarageBand?
GarageBand. I also haven't deleted off like the giant bomb and screen and Comic Find accounts yet either. So there's a lot of space taken up by that shit. Okay, let's pick back up with whatever we were talking about. As you were. What were we talking about? Everybody's lost the will to live. Okay, so massive. We've talked about the Sergey Brin Fred Flintstoneometer before, I think. This is my internal, when somebody says, hey, I have an idea, I like to think, and it comes out and you listen to it, you're like, oh, this is a crazy idea. And I think, is this a Fred Flintstone idea or is this a Sergey Brin idea? Right?
Fred Flintstone is your comparison?
No.
Bad
Fred,
ideas?
No, it's a scale.
Or those are ends of the spectrum. Right?
This is the end of the spectrum. So one is, hey, let's use links as the way to determine, how valuable the number of inbound links is the way to determine how valuable a web page is.
Google algorithm.
And on the other side of it is, hey, we're going to make the car move with our feet and a hole through the bottom.
All right. Yeah.
So I think that this is way on the Fred Flintstone side of the Fred Flintstone Sergey Brinometer, despite it being a really
If
cool
you had
idea.
the option to invest in planetary
Yes.
resources, would you
Yes.
invest in planetary
Absolutely.
resources?
But wait.
Then this is more on the Sergey Brin.
But yeah,
No.
because it sounds like you don't have a lot of faith in the idea.
No,
Or
I'm
at
saying
least
it's a
faith-
crazy fucking idea.
Or at least faith in their potential for success.
I would
invest.
not invest in Fred
just
Flintstone
because
cars.
how long you have to wait for a return? I mean, like Brad says, you're going to be talking about decades.
You have a kid
Although-
on the way. You're investing for the next generation.
No. If there was a company,
Fuck the next generation. What about me?
what
What about number one?
about this? If there was a company, if all the billionaires came together and created a company to try to create cybernetic humans or to make for immortality, wouldn't you be number one in line invest in that?
If I was a billionaire, they're not going to let chuds in. The whole point of immortality is that whoever becomes immortal first is the ruler forever.
See, the
because
issue-
you have a head start.
See, it's not the same.
You're
thing
never gonna
because
catch up.
You're actually buying yourself time there, whereas there's no point in me mining asteroids and like. Right as I'm on my deathbed, I'm about to die. They goes, "Oh, congratulations! You started making money on this." thing now."
No. What if by mining asteroids, cheap travel to Mars becomes a possibility? You can, on your final death blow, can be to take a pair of scissors to the dome on Mars and take a whole shitload of Martian people out with you.
I mean, the real
You're
exception,
in for that.
The real exception to that rule is that
Scissors that don't want to
That is the most fucking ridiculous scenario.
One,
That's a
on your
ridiculous
deathbed,
scenario.
like 110-year-old Gary on his deathbed being
Yeah.
rolled out on the Martian landscape by his robots.
So I'd love you to go to Charles Schwab and the guy says to you like, "So what is your retirement goal?" Well, I'd like to kill a bunch of people on Mars. Like the
Stab
Schwab
some
guy's
scissors
I
on-
don't think my program has an option for that.
Yeah, they bring you in to like open the supermarket from your little wheelie bed thing, and you instead of cutting the ribbon, you just throw the scissors through the
Would you like
inflatable
to
dome.
retire comfortably, or leave a lot of money for your kids, or murder a bunch of people on Mars?
Yeah, murder the Martians, of course.
why
They're
can't
the
you
enemy.
do both?
Yeah, why not?
I mean, the one exception to that rule is that you're not in it for the money. Like, if you don't care about personally seeing return on the investment, but you're happy with the knowledge that you are helping to move
you'd have
progress
to again. You
forward.
have to be someone like Sergey Brin,
Yeah.
where you're not in it for the money because you've already got all the money. You're like your monetary ambitions can't really go anywhere else, so you may as well do other things.
Yeah.
But if you're just if you're just a regular chud like people around this
Kickstarter.
table,
I
where
wanna-
we are still looking to get rich.
I mean, Cameron didn't make a bunch of money going down to the Challenger Deep, but he wanted to do it for other more altruistic
right, because he was
reasons,
able
right?
to do that once he had more money than he knew what to do with.
Right.
That's a different situation.
Where do you guys stand on the ethics of this?
The space mining?
Forget their potential for success or failure or whatever, but like
As long as
space exploration is very quickly going from the like purely scientific enterprise it was half a century ago to
Fine,
a
go for it.
mostly,
I'm fine with it.
if not entirely commercial venture. And
It's not like we're turning the Grand Canyon into a landfill. Space is kind of.
man, that,
Well,
you can put a lot of trash in the Grand Canyon.
I think we can afford to fuck space up a little bit, don't you think? I mean, there's so much
infinite.
of it, and there's nothing out there.
But the amount that we can realistically reach is not that much, you know.
Well,
we got to start somewhere.
here's like I would be much more concerned if they were pulling like gravitational tractoring the asteroids back into near Earth orbit.
Sure.
Because then you essentially have like a whole shitload of bombs sitting in low Earth orbit, which is not a good thing to have. We don't want Sergey Brin to get delusions of grandeur and start Dr. Eviling or anything.
Hold the world hostage.
Yeah, exactly. But I think there's no harm in this. I mean, I think that this is. I think the
and they're
good
paying
far
for
outweighs
research.
the potential harm.
This seems fine. It just seems like it could be a slippery slope that leads to some straight up Weyland-Yutani kind of stuff. You know?
Well,
like as soon as ExxonMobil plants a flag on the moon is when you start to feel
Well,
kinda,
you can't own.
feel kind of gross
I
about
mean,
it.
if you take the aliens out of the equation, there's nothing inherently bad about Weyland, right? I mean, they're not.
I think
what are they
Weyland
doing that's so
Yutani.
bad?
I think the whole point of Weyland Yutani is the dystopian mega corporation.
Yeah,
I think
that's
the fear is if so much wealth boils up into one company. That they
But we
control
have these-
basically
we-
everything.
But
we have it already.
We live in that
This
world
is the
now.
thing,
You're just
yeah.
talking whether now the shit is coming from space instead of the desert. Who
Well,
cares?
that's the thing. I mean, this is the most extreme extension of that framework because only multi-billion-dollar entities actually have access to this stuff.
And
Right.
and I think Brad's point is that the potential, if this works, the potential increase in wealth out of this is going to be such that it in this case, what Weyland Yutaniing means is to experience such an incredible amount of financial growth that they scale beyond anything that's on Earth.
What you wouldn't want, for example, is a company like this Planetary Resources, say 50 years from now, where they've established they're the only company that stepped up and put the money into it. So
Yeah.
now they've cornered the market on this vast new energy resource, which they could now hold everyone over a barrel.
That's
for.
the kind of
That's
stuff
the
I'm talking
scary
about.
scenario.
yeah. Well, I mean, the good news is James Cameron is on board, and he invented Weyland Yutani,
Right.
and
I wouldn't want James Cameron on the advisory board for this, because what if we do discover little blue people? James Cameron's gonna be like, "Oh no, it would be unethical." I'm like, "Fuck him."
That'd be his dream come true.
Yeah.
The little blue people.
Fuck the blue
oh my
people.
god,
That's literally what he want to do. He grows some braids.
I want the guy who played Quaritch on my advisory board, blowing up those mega trees. So get out of here,
we
space.
need more bombs.
Fuck you, space natives. Should have developed better weapons.
See, Gary's one of them.
The universe belongs to those with the technology and the will to go out there and fuck it up.
See, you believe that as long as we're fighting, Native American blue space aliens. If we come out and it's giant erogenous clouds that are massively militarized and look at us like,
Militarized
oh,
erogenous clouds?
hey, we're just going to grind you.
Oh, there's gonna.
well, that's
you're
the
smaller than
that's,
us.
that's,
to
that's,
us.
hover
the
through our
problem.
cities.
The
We're gonna feel great and then die.
We humans run the world because we've established ourselves at the top of the food chain. So you go out there and the food chain becomes a lot bigger in both directions. Well, there could be a lot of blue hippies, in
Right. Eco hippies.
Yeah, in Hessian robes and stuff and sticks and for
Braid
weapons.
fuckers.
We can just fuck them up. But that's one side of the coin. But the other side of the coin is the fucking nuclear atomic erogenous cloud that comes along with mind control lasers and shit, and we're fucked up.
Yeah, but
And that's more likely, actually.
the odds of
And
us.
that's fair enough. It's like we fuck up the blue people. We're like, because we're more powerful than you. And then the mega cloud aliens come along. We're like, I guess fair enough.
We'll make
now
great
you
pets.
get to fuck us up.
We'll make
That's
great
fair
pets.
enough. Yeah. And then
Yeah.
we get turned into some kind of pink slurry that they eat. And we're like, I guess, you live by the sword, die by the sword. What are you going to do?
Well, I mean, the latter is much more likely to be true given the age of the universe and that we're, 2,000 years into our civilization. It's 15 billion years old. Odds are the moment we make anything that's noticeable, unless the Carl Sagan idea is right, that you have to evolve beyond a certain point in order to reach starfaring, abilities,
Prime
we're
directive.
fucked. Yeah, game over, man. Humans aren't the dominant.
I
form
don't
of
buy
life.
into that notion. I mean, it's a nice thing to think that, because what we've seen already is that technological evolution generally is not in any way anchored or correlated to moral or ethical evolution.
No.
And so it's nice to think that yes, the Star Trek type future, by the time we have warp speed, we've also evolved to a point where we use it responsibly. I don't think that's.
I don't
true
think
at
that's
all.
his point. I think the point is that you would, if you hadn't evolved to a point that you could handle those powers as a species, you would have destroyed yourself well before that. I think that's the point.
Right.
It's a much grimmer way to look at it.
Right.
Than in order to have spacefaring and nuclear power and all that stuff. Like the point is, 50 years after the nuke, you're still around. You've done pretty good.
Right.
So anyway, anything else on the asteroid front? I mean, I'm really excited about this.
It's an interesting debate that is only just now beginning to have a reason to exist. You know?
Yeah.
Like because companies are just now getting into that space. Haha. But like if you kept up with Elon Musk's company SpaceX,
yeah,
I'm sure. Like you've had like no less August a figure than Neil Armstrong has kind of come out against that stuff. Like he testified before Congress, saying like this extreme commercialization of space is a bad idea.
Let's say we did discover a big asteroid and we could figure out how to mine it, but we also just and like the takeaway would be huge. Like there's massive amounts of super clean, super efficient energy. Like it would solve all our energy problems. It's all good. Like there's a strong incentive to go there and mine the shit out of this big
materials,
asteroid.
right? It's not
materials.
Right,
It's not
whatever
energy,
it may
it's
be.
materials.
Like we really want
Unobtainium.
Yes, unobtainium is strong. But we also discover that there, for example, a whole alien race of like little space rodents that live there.
Are they sentient space rodents?
Well, I mean, is a mouse sentient?
Well, it could be. No, I mean, our mice aren't, but maybe on another planet in different evolutionary
Well, let's say
pressures, the mice might be.
they're the same thing as like Earth mice, but they live on this asteroid. And all various types, like space beavers.
Do they wear clothes?
Space otters.
Oh, is
no,
it like
Space otters. I like space squirrels.
Whatever applies.
Space squirrels.
Whatever
Fuck space
applies.
squirrels, kill them all.
Think of the rodent universe here on Earth.
Yep.
Whatever that may be, rats, mice.
Yep.
you know,
beavers?
Those is a beaver a rodent? I
Yeah,
don't think
it's
so.
a rodent.
Is it?
Yeah,
I think the
Okay.
space Nazis would want to kill those rodents.
And put them all up there in space.
Yeah.
So they don't have language or clothes or anything. Like they just
if they were wearing waistcoats,
they're
that would
just
change
space,
this whole thing.
Space mice.
Like a little pocket watch and a waistcoat.
Do you think that we would just say fuck them? Or
No,
do you
we
think,
wouldn't.
I don't think we could.
I like to
No.
think that the second that life is discovered off of this planet, it immediately becomes a bigger story
Yeah,
and a
than
priority
how many
than
resources.
what kind of elements we can mine from.
We would relocate them.
Of course, Avatar tells us otherwise.
But they're just mice.
But
New pets,
life
space
is
pets,
precious.
premium pet.
That's the argument here is that life
Never-
in the
never-
in the universe that we found so far is limited to one place that's like 3 miles thick, right?
Yeah. But how is this different to vast numbers of species of apes and jungle living
Dude,
creatures that are
think
thousands
about-
of miles of their shit gets fucked up every day?
Think about what it
no
implies.
one gives a shit.
What does it imply about our own existence if we find life that formed off of this planet?
Well,
I
I
know
mean,
the implications, notwithstanding, I'm talking about the actual policies and what
Right.
what
I
actually
mean,
happened.
but forget the value of that specific life. Like, think about the implications for
Yeah.
all of existence.
Well,
I
I
don't
mean,
think space mice would be that big a deal.
they'd be a big deal
Wow.
for the first 5 years,
Wow.
and then
yeah,
you get
well,
sick of
that's
them
true. As soon as everybody got bored of having their pet space mouse, then
Like
you know.
blue people with a culture or whatever, that could be interesting from like an anthropological perspective. But if it's just mice living on a rock
Wow.
in space,
This is how it begins.
yeah, you would want to take a few and study them.
Gary Whitta, I'm
What?
disappointed in you. I don't even know. I'm speechless at this
Gary,
point.
gonna put them in camps too?
Look, at the end of the
Right,
day, yes,
you would-
you're right. It would be huge.
Trail of mouse
Space
tears.
mice would be on the front page of every newspaper in the world. I get it. But once we've got over that, and the question is, what do we do with them? You've got the hippies on one side saying, "Oh, we need to set up a big private reserve to study them and not mess up their natural space habitat." And you got everyone else saying, "You know, we kind of need the shit that they're living."
If they get in the
on."
way of your iPhone,
Yeah.
This is taking a dark and unwholesome turn.
thriving space mice population, $5 iPhone.
I think that Neil Armstrong's complaint about privatization of space is bunk because as a nation and as a world, we have been unable to do anything for the last 40 years.
Well, that's the problem. I mean, the miserable state of our.
Yeah.
Of our
That's the sad thing because
public
there
space
isn't the
exploration.
money anymore for governments to go out there and do it, and so
Well, there is the money. They're just not allocating. it.
the will, you know, whatever it is, it ain't going to happen.
Right.
And so so it's only the corporations that are going to step up, which is a shame, but you know, it's the only way we're going to get it done.
yeah. So yeah, I say outer space brought to you by Pepsi.
And that, but again, the problem is if it's if it's Wayland that discovers space mice instead of NASA, then Wayland is going to say, "Sorry, we found it, we own it. Bad luck, space mice."
Well, there are
They can't do
no,
that.
there are treaties about that because there's the rules. Much of the rules about space are the same rules that apply to places like Antarctica.
Like I know that no nation can lay claim to the moon or parts
Yeah,
of the moon.
it's the same stuff applies for.
Gotta share that.
I assume the same stuff applies for Mars and other points further out.
That's
but
how
I
it
don't
is
know.
now, though. Who knows what happens? Like once
Well, I guess
valuable resources
good
are within
lobbyists.
reach.
Well, it's the same
Yeah.
thing with like international waters and digging for oil.
Well, okay. So here's a question: should we, when we reach Mars, should we make attempts to terraform it and make it, so you don't
Absolutely.
have to go outside and wear pants? Yes or no?
Yes.
Why?
I'm not a big fan of wearing pants, so I'll say yes.
Okay, Gary, we know where you stand.
Yeah. Why not have another place to live?
But I mean, it's so essentially it's the world's largest nature preserve right now. Why?
What nature, though?
Well, I mean, who knows?
Or it's not a
there could be
wildlife preserve
bacteria
that
and
we
stuff
know
like
of.
that growing underneath in the permafrost.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big planet. We have no idea what grows where, and there's constantly, like, even last week there was a big conversation about whether the Viking lander life detection experiment actually did detect evidence of life when they thought that maybe it didn't. So, I mean, there's no way for us to know if we start taking algae and stuff like that to try to, turn the thin carbon dioxide atmosphere into a more oxygen-rich thing that we can actually breathe, grow stuff in. There's no way that we could know that we're not wiping out some unique ecosystem.
I think it would ultimately come down to a question of how much we need it. Like, if we really start running out of stuff here on Earth and people can't... Again, people are fine so long as they have the shit that they want. Like, you could find these adorable... Let's say they're really cute. Like, they're super adorable space bunnies. You see those pictures on the front page of these, and you're like, oh, we can't terraform their planet. Look at the adorable space bunnies. But as soon then they drive down the street and gas is $50 a gallon. They're like, fuck the space bunnies. We need that shit. That's what's going to happen.
If you had the option to live on Mars, and it was all terraformed, and it was another planet that you can live on, and have a giant mansion there where you can never come back.
Yeah, in.
You know what would be great, talking about like the difference between what if it's like harmless space bunnies or what if it's like the cloud that could fuck us up, is if actually they took us by surprise and we go, well, look, they're just space bunnies. What are they going to do? And you show up and like the bunnies have actually got actually do have technology that's better than ours. They were just kind of like concealing it.
The little bunnies are walking around wearing waistcoats and then all of a sudden pull out dual wielding
well, they just like
ear cannons.
They just like vaporize you with their thoughts.
Yeah.
Like, oh shit.
We fucked up.
Yeah.
See, that's why we got to be careful with the bunnies. Maybe you're right. Maybe eradicating the space bunnies is the way to go.
Because you don't really know what they're capable of.
It's all right. They'll find faith in one little girl who represents the purity of humanity. And
That's right. And they'll bring us together.
Yeah.
Star
Is she a
Child.
poet?
yeah,
Okay. Let's talk about back doors. So you may or may not know, but like
Like in war games?
kind of actually, yeah. There are like very specialized operating systems that run the infrastructure of America and the world. So things like water filtration systems and the things that make sure the water pressure stays the same in your tanks, gas
grid.
pressure, power grid,
Traffic
all
lights.
of that stuff is run by some really highly specialized. I think they're kind of embedded systems that are based on what to us is very old technology at this point. And recently, the last week, someone discovered a back door in one of these operating systems that is used in the power grid and a bunch of other places. It's a story on Ars Technica. It was really interesting. Discuss.
So somebody like a hacker could hack in and like turn all the power off.
Yeah, so the way it worked was in order to basically there's a set password, a set username, and to generate the password, the backdoor password for this, you ran the MAC address for the device through a Perl script.
Isn't it a good idea to like not publicize this until it's fixed?
I think that there's no way to fix it is the problem.
So why would you want to publicize it? You're potential hackers. You just
Well,
say, hey hackers, here's a juicy
At
target.
some point, it becomes if there's exploits in the wild and people are aware of it, it's better to let the most people know so that they can replace or fix the systems in question. For example, if the vendor these aren't it's not like upgrading your phone to the new version of the OS. They're things that you can't turn off or can't have downtime on. So the question then becomes who has to fix it, and I think the publicizing it is a way to apply pressure to the vendor who fucked up. Frankly,
Right. That's a bit scary.
yeah. Especially, I mean, I've been reading this book about the power grid, and it seems like a 0.5% fluctuation in anything throughout the power grid can bring down massive swaths of our electrical infrastructure because it's all connected. We'll talk more about that later. That's a next week topic, I think. But anyway, I thought that was interesting. There's backdoors everywhere. That's the lesson. And of course, if you can identify the machines that run this OS with search engines on the web, so it's really easy to figure out what's where and also log in immediately. So I think the immediate fix for people who have these devices is to take them off of the public web or firewall, put a firewall between the outside and them,
Right.
if they have to stay connected to the network. So.
All right.
Tor ebooks DRM-free now in the US and the UK as of this morning. So this what was
Not
the
as of this morning, as July.
well as of announced as of this morning. Yeah,
2 days ago. Yeah.
July. So what was why are they doing this?
Because that's what their authors asked for, and what their users
So
asked
Cory
for.
Doctorow and Charlie Strauss and all those guys.
Well, the people actually write science fiction books, but yes,
Okay.
Yeah.
They're
they're the biggest science fiction publisher in the world, and it's the first time a major publisher is saying that you can, their books, if you buy them, will be DRM-free, EPUB format.
So the interesting thing about this, there was a Charlie Strauss who writes science fiction, who wrote like Accelerando and he's written a bunch of stuff, a lot of Singularity stuff that I think is quite good. He wrote a good blog post about this the other day and explained the kind of the differences between like niche science fiction book sales and mainline, Danielle Steele, Tom Clancy, Stephen King, that kind of stuff, the stuff that sells millions of copies. And the thing he said is that, and it makes a lot of sense, is that the kind of people who buy genre fiction typically buy a lot more books every year, and they tend to collect and read them over again and revisit them over the years, and they're building a collection, not necessarily just reading the book and throwing it away, like if you buy a Danielle Steele book when you go to the beach. So the Danielle Steele people don't care about keeping the book, putting it on the shelf, whatever, coming back to it 4 years later. The genre fiction people definitely do. And given the history of DRM to this point, like the fact that the hardware for ebook readers and tablets and stuff is turning over at such an incredible pace, every 2 or 3 years, you can't expect, like, the DRM schemes aren't going to last. So if you respect your audience and you want them to be happy with you, then they have to basically move toward a no DRM scheme. And the announcements came a couple of days after the post. Completely unrelated, I think. I think it was just a coincidence. Mm-hmm. But I think that's really good, and I think it's a step forward for people who buy ebooks. I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, again, the interesting thing about the digitalization of all these different media is that we start to see a predictable pattern, right? Music was kind of the first thing where it kind of moved into a post DRM state, and I think we're seeing that event. Books are now following. Movies will be the last thing to go. But we are seeing it, and it's weird. You want to be able to share stuff. Again, in the old print days, you would, if I read a book and I was done with it, and you expressed an interest in reading it, I wouldn't think anything of lending it to you. Yeah, there doesn't seem to be anything malicious about that. But obviously, with ebooks, it's too easy. The lending or sharing system right now is very, very restricted. Yeah, I mean, the lending and sharing system right now, I don't think I've ever been able to, like, anytime I've had a book that I bought and somebody wanted to borrow, like, it wasn't one that supported the lending feature, so I've never even tried it. I don't think. Right. The interesting thing, we talked about this a few weeks ago, and I can't remember if it was on the podcast or just out and about, but it seems like now, rather than buying stuff and storing and putting in boxes, we're essentially just buying licenses to stuff. So when I kick off, when my grandparents died, they left books to the family members and whatever. When we die, there's not going to be any transfer. Yeah, I mean, I think this is the bigger question, and I think it's really interesting to talk about from like a philosophical macro kind of viewpoint. Is the nature of ownership is changing? Yeah,
but how much of your stuff, how much of your great grandparents' stuff do you actually own? As a percentage of how much they own. I'm
sure somebody has a lot of it.
It's mostly furniture for my great grandparents because they didn't buy media.
But
stuff.
The point is how much of media? It all still physically exists somewhere.
Yeah. Well, some of it.
Well, what survived?
Very few of it. And I think we are in a very interesting generation where we had computers when personal computers first became affordable. And if you look like the oldest file on your computer, it's probably really old.
Yeah, I have like 1999, 2001
we move our files over every time we build a new computer. Right. And we are like digital.
Is it going to be like when I leave a will? Is my will going to be like and to my daughter I leave my iTunes password? Yeah, like so on your deathbed, so you can re-download all my shit.
You're going to be rasping out your Amazon password.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I almost think you should make I've been thinking about making just a password death list in case I get hit by a bus or something. Because I mean. Well, I just have to give the one password. I guess.
For me, it's going to be. It's not going to be an issue for me because my will's just going to be like, "Fuck you all! I'm taking it all to the grave."
But you want to bring everyone into the room. You still have to have
spit at you with my last breath.
It's a video. You gotta have a VHS.
I'm going to go out like Khan from Hell's Heart. I stab at thee. It's like, come closer, child. What is it, Dad? Fuck you!
and then the Martians.
Yes. That's right.
Martian child,
you know,
come
the
close.
thing is, you could make it contingent. You could make the inheritance contingent on them fulfilling your last wish, which is to wipe out a Martian dome city.
When you go, don't you want to send someone on a
your
quest?
ass to Mars.
You want to send
Then kill everyone.
you want to send
Stop
all
the
your
fans,
friends,
turn 'em all off.
and all your family and all your descendants on some crazy treasure hunt.
Yeah, like Total Recall.
and at the very end, the payoff is nothing,
Yes.
or the journey.
Yes.
Yeah, and then
I
they're
hope
all
you've
pissed
learned
off.
a
Then
very
they curse at
yes,
you in the grave.
real treasure is the valuable lesson about life I've taught you, which
Yeah.
is don't trust anyone. Everyone is a liar.
and your family's out to get you.
Nothing can ever come to any good.
Exactly.
Brilliant.
Oh, this is dark places when we start too early in the morning.
Yeah.
But
This
for
is
my
very
dog, my Spotify account.
Yeah. I leave everything to the dog.
I'm plagued by the dark, nightmarish thoughts that follow me from sleep into my waking state. Usually until I've had about lunch.
This is good to know. This is
Is that a temporal thing of the time you have lunch, or is it because of what you eat for lunch that relieves your mental?
Might be the
anguish?
protein in the lunch,
Yeah,
much like
coffee.
Yeah, much like the coffee.
Nightmares.
It drives away the dark thoughts.
good to know.
Drives
I call
drives
them
them back.
stabby.
Drives them back into the dark recesses of my mind.
Oh, I can't wait until you have a kid. Ivy Bridge, it's out. You can get it now. Lloyd used to write that stuff for us, and he's working for
It's
PC
a giant
World
tick.
now.
It's probably the biggest Intel tick upgrade in a long time.
It's primarily a graphics upgrade, right?
So it is primarily a graphics upgrade,
Wait
but it's
a
also
minute.
the first 22 nanometer chip.
Tick
That's-
as in the incremental.
Tick is incremental. Talk is bigger than
I
tick.
have four.
I thought the
I
talk
don't
was
know
the
if-
big one.
I don't know
It's
if
the
this is the
little one.
venue,
If
but
you-
I have taken issue with your,
Look at a
your
clock.
TikTok definition.
Look at a clock.
Tick comes before talk.
Yeah.
Right.
Tick is the
Does-
first
does
part
it
of
Yeah,
the
matter?
tick is
part
the big
sequence.
thing and talk is the follow-up.
No,
Yeah.
talk
I
is
agree
the
with
big
That's
Brad.
why
thing.
you have it backwards.
Talk is big.
That's
tick is
why you
small.
have it backwards.
Oh, no, I agree with Norm. Norm is right.
Tick
How?
is small.
What is the
talk
rationale?
is big.
That is an
Talk.
arbitrary
Tick.
judgment.
Talk.
Tick.
Tick
Talk.
tock. There is an order. Tick
What-
comes
Doesn't
first.
matter-
Talk is the second half.
Yeah,
of
tick
that,
is the beginning
that
of the
sequence.
cycle. Yeah, and then
Doesn't matter
talk
where
Talk
it
is
is
the
the
second half.
sequel.
I respectfully disagree.
I'm Team Brad on this one.
This is.
I don't even respectfully disagree. I
always.
disrespectfully disagree.
Well, this is by Intel's definition of the tick-tock cycle, which they invented.
Are they the ones out there?
They're the ones who started this.
It is counterintuitive. If I
This
didn't
is-
know what how you guys defined it, and I heard
tick
tick
is-
tock, I would assume
talk
that tick
is usually
was first.
major architecture change. Tick is
Yeah.
refinement.
By Intel's logic, the very, very first chip that they made, which they're saying was a tick, was an incremental upgrade
Yeah.
to
But
they're
something
not
that came
talking
before that
about-
didn't even exist.
They're not.
But they invented the
This
tick-tock
is like
thing
a
after they've
fucked
been
up
making
chips
chips
They're
in
for
an
wrong.
30
airtight
years.
They
situation.
are wrong. They are logically wrong.
totally
about
wrong.
this.
Sometimes when you're wrong, even when someone's wrong, you have to use the terminology that they use so that what you're talking about makes sense to
That
everyone else.
really begs the question.
Ticks
doesn't
just
it?
seems smaller.
Yeah, it's a small sound. Tick.
Like I said, that's
Talk.
subject. That is totally subjective.
Yeah, and it makes no sense at all because when you actually take it all the way back to the clock analogy, a talk is no bigger than a tick.
No, they're
Every
about
tick of the
seconds.
clock is equal.
Yeah.
I read that they're not teaching kids how to read analog clocks anymore in school.
Do you have to teach
Really?
kids how to read analog clocks?
Yeah, you learn it in third grade. We learned it clock reading in
So
third grade.
before third grade, you didn't know. You
no
look at the
idea.
clock.
You don't have a good concept.
What
of
is
time.
that circle?
Well, you knew it was a clock, but the ability to tell time and measure the passing of time is something that cognitively
That
you
is
learn.
that is
Third
crazy.
grade?
Third grade, I think. Maybe
8
second.
years old?
8 years old.
I kind of get that we're doing away with like handwriting classes and stuff like that, but like we're not ready to move past this.
Well, the
analog
wristwatch.
clocks are still everywhere.
yeah.
I mean, we're doomed as a species, aren't we?
Yeah, pretty much.
Bag of salad, man. I've long said that the invention of bag of salad is the beginning of the end for humanity. Because if you can't take some greens
Yeah.
and make food out
Tear
of them,
them up and wash them and
right,
put them in your mouth.
you're fucked.
Yeah.
Game over.
Yeah.
But the bag
It's
of
just
salad
conven-
is
it's just
Well, that's
convenience,
that's
though.
convenient. Well, but
It's convenient.
so is a digital.
Yeah, so is a
time
digital watch.
display.
Yeah, look, you don't have to think about with the little hand and the big
Like,
hand.
are we all destined to become Eloy with no Morlocks to perform all of the menial?
I was thinking more of the fat guys from Wall-E, but yours works too.
Okay.
I like
Yeah.
the fat guys.
I'm all right with that. I never understood Wall-E as a cautionary tale. Those fat dudes. We've talked about this before. Those big fat dudes floating around.
They seem real happy.
I'm like,
Milkshakes
how
for everyone.
quickly can we get there?
Cupcake in a cup.
I want that.
Yeah.
blue's
Well, then
new
why
red.
did you lose all that weight? You could have just kept going.
Because
Because
I
we
want
don't
to.
have
Because
it
I
yet.
want to live long enough to get to that point where I can be. Then I can put the weight on, and they've got some kind of pill that'll just keep me alive no matter what I eat.
But the Wally thing is extreme because even if we had the hover chairs and the milkshakes in a can,
Cupcake in a cup.
cupcake in a cup, doesn't mean we'll necessarily get fat. We just take a pill and all go away.
Yeah, it's an artery reaming pill. Yeah. Okay, so we were talking about something that I have no idea. Ivy Bridge.
Ivy
It's
Bridge,
out.
yeah.
How is it? Is it good?
It's very fast. No, not worth the upgrade from Sandy Bridge to Ivy Bridge in terms of whether a notebook
or even if you're on a 1366 board still.
No, if you're on a 1366 board, get off a 1366
All right,
board.
Really?
They're not making chips really.
So
anymore.
I'm very excited to see this come into the next Mac cycle.
A lot of people are excited for this for iMacs, all-in-one systems and notebooks.
So ready.
It's
for
more
the,
notebooks
for,
for me,
Mac.
I think.
Notebooks can be way more power efficient at 22 nanometer process.
Yeah.
And the graphics, the integrated graphics,
Which would be great because my MacBook Air, I mean, you unplug that thing,
Yeah.
and the battery is a joke.
You have the 11-inch?
Yeah.
The first 11-inch, right?
Yeah.
Mine's a joke too.
Oh.
Yeah, that's why I use the iPad now because I can't get more than 2.5 hours, 3 hours of battery.
How's
life.
your 13, Brad?
It's fine.
It's brand new?
It's like a month old.
Okay.
So the battery hasn't had time to degrade yet, but it lasts forever.
Is that brought to you by NCIS or CSI or...
How I Met Your Mother, I think.
Okay, How I Met Your Mother.
That's where this one came from.
That's good.
How I Met Your MacBook.
You know, Apple actually doesn't give promotional consideration for that show.
No?
Really?
You know, they have to use stickers over the Apple logos. Only 30 Rock.
Wow.
NBC shows.
Wow.
Interesting. Ivy Bridge is good. The Max PC had good story on it. There's write-ups all over the place.
Desktop right now, it will come out. I mean, we can anticipate laptop chips very soon.
It's more exciting for mobile, I think, than desktop, especially if you're already on Sandy Bridge.
I'm just so ready for an iMac upgrade that I'm going to be jumping in when.
You're going to replace the Air as well, same time.
Well, I mean, they're not on the same
Depending
cycle,
on-
are they? But yeah, the next refresh, will probably upgrade both my laptop and my desktop.
Okay.
And then you'll get the PC at the end of the year.
Whenever Windows 8 comes out.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are you going to do for Diablo 3?
When's Diablo 3 coming out?
Next month.
Next month?
Like 3 weeks.
I can play it on the
It'll be fine.
HTPC
It'll be fine.
until.
Blizzard games always scale to whatever.
Is that a game? I'm not a big Diablo guy, but I will be playing this one. Is that a game that I could play with a controller, or should I really be
I
playing? with a
don't
mouse and
think
keyboard?
I don't think
it'll
it'll have
work.
controller support built
But
in.
you can play with
Okay.
other people.
They've talked about.
Yeah.
I mean,
We
there are
could
all kinds
quest
of
together.
there are all kinds of signs that it will come to a console at some point, but I don't think there's support in the PC version for that.
Okay,
We could-
maybe I'll just wait until I build the new machine. I'm not champing at the bit to.
We can
play
play
the
the
next
single-player co-op.
Oh,
4 people at once.
ooh, I like that.
Yeah, that's fun.
Okay.
Let's see what else. GM announced Super Cruise this week. This is basically a combination of 2 existing technologies. Adaptive cruise control, which is the thing where it tells how far you are from the car in front of you so you don't rear end them when you have cruise control on. And then the...
Cruise control is the most magical thing
Really?
in the past
Adaptive
20
cruise control.
good
well,
for
when
freeway
cruise
driving.
control was invented, 20, 30 years ago, whenever it was, having that in the car blew my mind.
See, you're too young to remember this, but when cruise control first came out, it never worked right because it was all based on a vacuum system. And as soon as you got a pinhole leak in the vacuum system, it would be very unreliable.
My parents' Oldsmobile cruise control, and I was driving that. Was
Like an 85 Olds?
88 Olds.
88
I use it a lot when I drive to LA and back.
Yeah.
Especially just driving down the 5. I mean, it's a very, very straight shot. There's usually very little traffic. You feel like you can just put cruise control on. Because otherwise, you start to get your ankle cramps up from just keeping the accelerator held down. So it's good for that. But I never leave it on for too long because I feel uncomfortable about the idea that
have control.
I've abdicated part of my responsibility for driving the car to the system.
Well, do you move your foot to the brake then and just have it at the ready?
Well, yeah, because that's what I mean. So for people who aren't familiar with how cruise control works, it's so easy to override, right? You only have to.
There's
just
4
touch.
different ways to turn it off.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all I do is just the lightest touch on the brake will shut it off immediately.
So I usually sit cross-legged when I'm on cruise control. I like to make it a little more exciting.
Oh no, I don't do that. I've got it.
Add that
it's
extra
like-
time
now you
between
can
the brain
sit-
response.
I've
you can have
done that
cross-legged
before.
and arms folded.
Yeah.
I've done that before. Like I've occasionally sat back. Oh, you can do that for 1 second. Like again on a straight shot, you can completely relinquish
can't take
control
your
of the
hand
car.
off the wheel.
You could on going down 5. Are you kidding? You could just lash the wheel straight.
Yeah, you
And
can just
no
tie the wheel
problem.
off. Yeah,
Right. Like you're in a ship.
But no,
Use your
So
shoulders.
how long before self-steering becomes?
Well, that's
Google's
the
working
story.
on
oh,
it.
that's what this is.
Yeah, so in Cadillacs right now, they're testing technology that uses both adaptive cruise control with a full spectrum of start and stop, which means the cruise control can stop the car and
all the
start
way
it
to
back
0
up.
if you're in traffic.
Yeah, and also lane monitoring, so it uses cameras and markers to spot where the lines are on the road, and GPS, so it knows where the turns are coming. It can anticipate that, so that you can, for a little bit, take your hands off the wheel, and on a highway with even roads, it will drive along that road.
I'm not loving this. This could
Any-
not end
anything-
The
well.
photo they
anything that
released was
lulls a
an old
person-
dude, arms folded, looking at the camera.
Yeah,
in his Cadillac.
as he's driving along.
Anything that
comfortable
lulls a
with this.
person behind the wheel into any sense of complacency or security sounds like a terrible idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're not a driver.
Well,
you know.
we have
It used to be. I mean,
Okay.
So
Will
Nevada's
be
the
again.
only state right now with laws regulating autonomous cars, and Nevada, yeah.
They're front runners always.
Yeah, California, we're soon. It's getting voted on soon, and I think Jerry Brown's going to sign it.
I don't like it. Even with, like as you said, even with cruise control, my foot is never far. Even though it's tempting to like enjoy the cruise control and like cross your legs and think I'd have to worry about this part, my foot is always right there, close to the brake in case I want to be able to override
my
it. in a
attention,
split
at least
second.
for the first 5 years that we have autonomous cars, if my foot isn't on, because you have to be licensed driver to use autonomous cars anyway. But anyone who's experienced driver and knows how cars works and knows the feel of the road, if the robot's driving your car, you're going to be paying way more attention.
Are you
Initially.
kidding? I'm going to
Dude,
be watching a
no
movie,
way.
No,
playing
I would be
games.
No
freaking
way.
out.
I'm going to get an in-car Xbox. I'll be sitting there playing some Halo, driving to work
I'll be
in the morning.
freaking out, and at slight bump, I'm going to grab the steering
You
wheel.
trust
I think-
technology to do everything
I don't-
else.
God, no, not drive a car.
I think this could be plenty of people's excuse to abdicate their responsibility to safety behind the wheel.
I trust technology to do a lot of things, but I'm not usually reliant on technology if it goes wrong. It's like, if Pirates of the Caribbean goes wrong, the pirates don't eat the tourists. Like, it's that analogy.
Yeah.
So you're saying that the Cadillacs are velociraptors?
I'm saying that if my Dropbox goes down, I don't drive over a cliff and fucking die. Whereas if this piece of technology goes wrong, I could die.
Here's the thing, though. You're
lot of
assuming
people.
that everybody that's driving today
other people.
pays
I-
attention when they're driving. You look around you, man.
Dude, the number-
motherfuckers with phones up, like lipsticking, drink 2 drinks in the hands.
Yeah,
they're
and
all over
the number
place.
the number of times I have almost been run down in a crosswalk in this fucking city in the
Yeah.
last 2 months
Yeah.
tells me that a lot of
Yeah.
people are not qualified to be driving.
I would
cars.
much rather. I trust the computer way more than I trust Joe Sixpack.
maybe there is that argument. If we're already on a track where people are not paying attention anyway,
Yeah.
then by all means, let's have other systems compensating for that.
I wonder if your insurance rates go up if you get a self-driving car.
I don't know. I saw a thing on TV. There was a commercial this week for I can't remember which car it was, but they had it's very simple compared to this even. But it was a rear view camera that if it detected motion through the rear view camera, it would apply the brake. So
Well, that stuff happens a lot. They have the backing up sensors and the whole 9 yards now. Like the self-parking cars and like the self-parking cars, I always thought were a little dopey because if you drive, then you should be able to parallel park. But
old people.
people who don't live in cities. Is
I mean,
more
It doesn't
likely.
really.
I mean, it is.
self-park.
I kind of get it. Like, so many accidents these days are caused, for example, like you're too busy texting, you don't notice the car in front of you suddenly stops, you rear-ended the other car. If there's a system that can come in and intervene there, I guess that's a good thing.
The
So you
system
want-
stopped
the, oh,
texting
shit.
in the car.
I don't know. I thought this was really interesting. It's kind of a halfway between the Google self-driving cars where you get in and tell it where you want to go and it takes you there, and and current cruise control.
Once
and
we're at that
lane
level
centering.
and that technology is proven, I'm all for that. It's just this kind of weird transitional phase we're in right now where who's really driving the car is kind of up for question. That's a bit weird.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
and-
you have
and-
to have someone behind the steering wheel. It's going to be like hybrid, any kind of technology. It's going to take a couple generations. So
and it'll be 30 years before. Well, it'll be 30 years before everybody's driving self-driving cars.
right.
At least.
And people still want to drive cars. The
Yeah.
self-driving aspect will
Well,
just
it's
be
the-
complementary.
iRobot.
But I mean, there are a lot more interesting car technologies that are useful today. I mean, stuff like sensing eye droop and people falling asleep at the wheel. That the whole Diamond Chrysler research team, they created this cab where it's for truckers who do long-term driving, but it can just sense how sleepy the driver is, and then it'll blast out like aromas. It'll wake the driver up, and then play music at certain volumes to
Hold on. What kind of aromas does it blast out?
orange.
Really?
Yeah,
Orange
citrus.
wakes you up?
Citrus wakes you up.
Interesting.
How about smelling salts?
Yeah, I would think like ammonia or something would really.
Yeah. But then also it works other ways. So when it tells drivers to take naps at the side of the road so they get better well rested, then the cab modifies itself to be more soothing so that you can take a better nap.
Tints the windows, maybe.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
A couple of other things. Let's see. We talked about passive homes on the site last week. I thought this was really neat. It's a Euro thing that's starting to come here, and basically the idea is that you build a home that's airtight and much, much more heavily insulated than any normal U.S. American home. And the idea is that you can heat it with a couple of candles or just turning on your oven to make cookies or whatever. Just the mere fact that you have human beings walking around inside is enough to keep the house warm, even in really frigid climates like Wisconsin and Canada and Scandinavia and stuff like that. And it works the same way in the summer. It'll keep everything cool inside as well with minimal cooling. So the upshot is that your energy budget for heating and cooling dramatically decreases. And the interesting thing about this is that energy budget for temperature control in our house is probably the single largest carbon expenditure that any of us have, especially if it's like one person in a house.
If your house was completely airtight, how long would it take before the oxygen supply would become an issue?
So it's airtight, but that just means that they control the inflow and outflow of air.
Closest.
So you
It's a-
just,
so
it
it's
just kind of events every so often or something?
Constantly. So it has a constant inflow outflow, and the thing that they do is they have heat exchangers between the incoming and outgoing air, so that in the summertime it transitions the cool from the outblowing air into the ingoing air.
Wow.
And in the winter it transitions the heat from the outgoing air into the incoming air. So it's basically like a heat pump, but works a little bit differently. There's also some other stuff they do. They have, like, because they remove thermal pipes from the inside to the outside. So things like dryer vents are responsible for a massive amount of energy. Like 200 cubic feet of air goes out every time you run your dryer. So if you're in a house and it's wintertime, then you're essentially pumping out 200 cubic feet of air, which is a ton of heated air straight into the outside. So you use different kinds of like condensing dryers and stuff like that. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that goes into it. But I thought it was a really interesting story, like triple pane glass, 4-foot thick walls or 2-foot thick walls or something like that. It's crazy. And pretty neat. The danger, of course, the bad thing, of course, is it costs a fair amount more when you're constructing the house.
It's like the whole solar panel thing. It's a massive initial outlay of cash, and then
Well, the solar
theoretically
panels,
you'll make it up over time.
well, if you're gonna, the problem is nobody lives in their house for 20 years anymore. The solar panel thing, though, because the price of solar panels has dropped like 90% in the last 3 years, is not that big of an initial expenditure anymore if you're building new. So, anyway, let's. I think that'll do it for us on news this week. Do you want to talk about Walking Dead, or do you want to save that for the end, Gary? It's out.
I didn't know we were talking about
I thought we'd give you a plug. Since it's
sure.
out.
Why not? Did you want to talk about another mega Apple quarter, or is that boring at this
Boring.
Who cares?
Boring.
11 billion in profits.
The only part about that I thought was interesting was like, when does it end? I mean, I just saw the numbers this week that they are up 94% again on the same quarter last year. It's like, this can't go on forever. I mean, otherwise they're just going to own the fucking universe.
Well, eventually, as the
they have
tablet
very
market
small-
matures,
They have a very small market share in most of their products, aside from iPod, iPhone,
and iPad.
iPad. But in terms of computing overall, and even global
Isn't
market,
it double digit now on the computing side though?
It depends
they
on
had
how-
made some gains.
They have, but it depends. Like if you include enterprise and stuff like that, it's still very, very low. If you look at retail sales, and they're like 16-17%.
also international markets.
Yeah.
What if anything ever came out of that in terms of speculation or ideas came out of that top secret Tim Cook Valve meeting?
There
that
was
that
no
took place.
That's what
Oh, did it not
Yeah.
take? No, was
Did
it
not
all a
that
ruse?
didn't even happen.
didn't even happen.
That headline was repeated like
Yeah, that was a
because
big
Apple
story.
Insider
That was
wrote it,
everywhere.
and then Gabe Newell said, "I never met.
I've
Tim
never
Cook."
met Tim Cook.
Wow.
I mean, if anything, the interesting thing that came out of Valve this week wasn't the Tim Cook thing, but the release of the employee handbook.
Yeah.
Which I think everybody should read. I thought it was really interesting.
What was so? I didn't read it, but I know it went around a lot. What was so interesting about it?
So it basically describes their the first hint of this came with that Michael Abrash blog post 2 weeks ago, where he basically said, look, they've built a culture. They realized that being able to repeat stuff is much less valuable than being first and being creative and building an environment where creative people can do smart things efficiently and well. And basically, they don't have a structure. Like the whole thing about the company is it's a narco-syndicalist commune, kind of, where everybody just does what they think is going to be the most valuable thing for the company.
Like Abrash, who is a really highly respected graphics programmer, is working on wearable computing at Valve.
Because
as like stuff like the Google glasses and like
Right.
ways to integrate computers into your clothing.
because he
and
thinks
stuff
that's
like
interesting.
that.
And
like,
it's
like
the
is that
thing that's
likely
most
to,
valuable he can do.
Like, is that ever likely to show up in a Valve game? Probably not, but who knows what it'll lead to.
Right. So the handbook basically goes through the list of ways that you can and can't fail. What people have been fired for, kind of. It doesn't say, like, but what it doesn't say is, well, I mean, what it does say is, look,
a lot of inference you can make from
Yeah.
stuff. Like they'll explicitly say, "We've never fired anyone for making a mistake," but
The but is that you can infer they've fired people.
Gabe
for,
has stabbed someone to death with his knife collection now.
for not living up to their potential, wasting
Right.
their potential, wasting their time.
Right. They talk about like there being no kind of hierarchy. So if you go have a conversation with Gabe about something, it's not Gabe telling you to do this. It's Gabe saying, "Hey, I think this is kind of a cool project and maybe something you're interested in. But if you'd rather do something else and that's more valuable to the company, that's totally
It really
cool
sounds
too.
like this utopian society.
It sounds like a hive is what it sounds like the same kind of instructions that bees and ants use to.
It sounds amazing.
Create order out of
It
chaos.
sounds really amazing and forward thinking, and it's obviously yielded some impressive results. But like at the same time, you wonder if they can only get away with it because they have this massive other revenue stream.
Yeah, I was going to say the same
Propping
thing.
the
It's
whole thing
it's-
up all the time.
It sounds very cool, but clearly this is the kind of structure that is afforded by the vast wealth that they have. I mean, they're a very comfortable company financially.
And still no episode 3. So I mean, clearly everything's not perfect.
Oh, did you read that Gabe interview where they talk about Half-Life without mentioning Half-Life?
Oh,
It was kind of funny.
is that the one where he made some oblique reference to Half-Life 3 though?
Well, no. So
Or-
there was an interview where I guess Gabe was being interviewed, and
Quiet, Chloe.
the interviewer was talking about Ricochet. Do you remember the game Ricochet,
Yeah.
which was a Steam game? It was basically Disc of Tron but 3D using a Source engine. One of the first games released on Steam.
Chloe, quiet.
They were talking about Ricochet 2, and the whole time they were having this conversation about Ricochet 2, but really they were talking about Half-Life 3.
Nice.
Interesting.
Without saying Half-Life 3.
The other big Valve news, I don't know if you heard, it sounds like Steam on Linux is imminent.
Yeah, I know. I heard that. That's crazy. The Phoronix, which is like been the preeminent Linux desktop site for years now, apparently has seen it working, and it's a thing now.
Is that actually big news?
It is, because if you think about all the other places that Linux pops up, that means Android, Steam, and all that stuff is possible as we move more Linux. As we use like kind of more Chrome notebooks run Linux, so you could have Steam on Chrome OS. Not exciting today, but could be in 5 years.
I mean, like Linux as a desktop OS probably never going to happen at this point, but
it'll be it'll be the underpinnings for some other.
like
if
Linux
anything.
Linux on embedded devices, it seems like the real thing there.
Yeah, phones and tablets.
Yeah.
So I guess that does it for news this week. A couple other small things. The CISPA stuff is going to get vetoed. We're not going to talk about it at all because it's done. But it's basically it was a bad piece of legislation.
The White House said,
and Obama has said, "Hey, I'm going to veto it." I think it's the first thing he's threatened to veto in this presidency. So see how that goes. Galaxy Nexus GSM is out. You can buy it direct from Google now. It's $400 off contract. It's HSPA plus, not AT&T LTE or I guess it's T-Mobile's fake 4G. But and that's it for news. I'm gonna play some music and then let's talk about what we're testing. We're running real late here today. So Norm, anything? I'm looking at the highlights. We talked about NAB stuff already. We talked about coffee. I got to use the new Espro, or I got to taste coffee from the new big Espro filter pot. It's a French press with dual filters, so that one is 12 times the fineness of a normal French press, and one is 9 times, I think. So you basically get a French press pot without the kind of sludge in the bottom that people don't like.
Oh, that's cool.
They're going to send us one of those as soon as they have more units. They've sold out on the first batch, but they did a Kickstarter to fund that, which I thought was kind of cool.
I like it's good for. I like making French press coffee, but I hate cleaning it out. With that sludge at the end is always horrible.
Yeah,
I hate how little coffee I can make with AeroPress.
Yeah, that's why I don't use it anymore.
I do 1 cup. Like if I want a cup in the afternoon, I make an AeroPress rather than a Chemex. Did you try the new disc yet?
No, I'm still using the water.
Oh, I tried. You mean the paper?
Or the paper.
I tried the disc yesterday. I was quite pleased with it. It did a nice job. I ground very fine. And then we got hands on with that crazy steampunk coffee maker. Basically it's a siphon pot that's for like cafes, and it's an automated siphon pot machine, which was bananas. I really burnt the shit out of my tongue on that coffee, so that was bad. Anything else on what we've been testing? You've not played Fez?
Nope.
You've not played Fez?
I have a code, but I haven't played it yet. I'm a little bit intimidated by it.
It's really good.
It is an intimidating experience, but a rewarding one.
I thought it was just going to be like a cute puzzler with a gimmick.
Well,
but then I'm seeing all
I
these
think
hieroglyphic code
that
books
is-
that are showing up online. It's like really? Do I want to get
That's
this
the
into
greatest
it?
success of that game is that they presented that front very believably until
Yeah.
it actually came out, and people
Yeah.
were, oh, wow,
Holy crap.
she just totally
Did she think you were?
She charged my
hitting her?
foot.
Chloe is truly bananas this morning.
Wow.
Hey. she's scared of feet. I think
That's why I
that
got my feet up.
Put on my shoes.
I think that the woman. I think the place we got her. I think they might have beaten her with shoes when she was a puppy.
That sucks.
So
she's
Fez
really
is
worried
actually
about shoes.
is more puzzly and complex
Oh yeah,
and challenging
well, it's
than
like
it looks.
it's like basically like an ARG game or an ARG like wrapped up in this like cutesy platformer.
If you want to play it as a platformer and just bounce around and rotate to collect all the gold cubes, you can do that
do
and have
that.
a
What's
very
the
good
AIG,
experience.
what's the AIG aspect?
It looks and sounds amazing, and it's $10. So if you just want to like collect the 32 cubes, which is a really easy thing to do, and
Yeah.
just see all the levels, you can do that.
but what's the other aspect?
There's an entire alien writing system in the game that
Right.
that it expects you to decode yourself.
Right.
There are puzzles that involve QR codes. There are puzzles that purely involve the vibrations in the controller.
Hieroglyphics.
It's
Like,
crazy.
It's the thing I said when I would listen to the Bombcast last week because I'm a little bit behind, but I listened to the Bombcast and I was glad to hear that this happened to you guys too. But when I started playing it, basically I kind of, you know how in A Beautiful Mind when John Nash is getting schizophrenic and he starts seeing signs everywhere he looks.
Mm-hmm.
This game is like that, except for the signs are actually there sometimes. So like you'll be standing there looking at something, you'll see like a light blink someplace, and you'll be like, oh, that's a weird blinky. Wait, hold on. Oh yeah, okay. That means something. And then you do something and something happens, you're like, oh my fucking God, that is unbelievable.
I will check it out, but I don't think I'm the kind of player that would fully extract like all the marrow.
I mean,
from
it's
the
all
game.
out there. It's all been solved at this point. So
Right.
if you just want to get through it the first time and then just take all those answers and plug them into the game,
Yeah.
to at least see how it fits together, you can do that.
And
Yeah.
but I think the way to play that game is to just do a first pass without looking at cheat guides and stuff like that. And if you get stuck on something, don't linger. Just move on. Because some of those puzzles, like one of the puzzles in particular, is so difficult that even though people have figured out the answer through brute force, there's nobody understands why the answer is what it is.
Right.
So,
See, that doesn't sound great to me.
well, you won't hit that until you're real deep in the game.
Okay.
Like it's the very last thing basically.
Okay.
It's the thing that it does really well is when you figure out something that you've been looking at for a while, like you kind of let it rattle around the back of your head. You end up getting the full endorphin rush of, oh my God, I can't believe I finally solved that.
Yeah, see, that's what I like.
And then it rewards you because you can go back and recycle that solution in multiple places 4 or 5 times. Not so many that's tedious, but I think enough that it feels good.
right.
It's a really, there's only like 2 things about that game that I don't like.
I think I'm
not
going
talk about them
to
'cause
get
it's
into it this
spoilery.
weekend. I do have a code. I'm going to
Give it a try.
Yeah.
It's my favorite game of the year so far, so I don't think anybody's surprised by that. Let's do a question or two.
You like it better than Journey?
Yeah, I like it way better than Journey.
Okay.
I thought Journey was very pretty.
Very different games.
Yeah. Like Journey is the thing that I love about Fez is it scratches my exploration itch really well because it's massive. You can go through and just see a bunch of really cool shit if that's all
Yeah.
you're into, and you'll do that as in collecting all the gold cubes. You also, it's clearly a love letter to video games. There's a lot of like there's, I don't want to spoil stuff, but there's just the art design of the game changes. I mean, do you agree?
Yeah,
it
yeah.
changes pretty dramatically throughout
There's
the
a lot
different
of
worlds.
A lot of homage in there.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, like if you have a love of 8-bit and 16-bit games, there's a lot to like.
Okay.
Like there's just as a tourist, there's a lot to go through and see and be like, oh yeah, okay, I forgot about this. I thought it was quite good.
I guess I got to get Trials Evolution too.
Yes.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that game.
Is it very? Because I got the first Trials. Is it very different to that?
It's basically more of that, but
Okay.
much better and much more fleshed out.
Well,
All right.
the perspective in the first one, did the perspective could it rotate?
No, that's
or was
one of
it
the new
always
things
straight?
they do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I mean,
All right.
you're always like side on with the action, but they do a lot of weird camera moves as you.
Yeah, I'm
go
gonna
around
grab
and
that
stuff
too.
now.
I
Yeah.
liked the first
a
one.
lot better art design and stuff.
Yeah, it's that game, like having. So there's some people who will remain nameless who are on my friends list, who apparently have been obsessively playing that game to be the first ghost on every. Like it's always the same 2 people that are
Yeah.
number 1 and number 2.
It facilitates that. If
Like
you're
in this
into that.
game, this would Trials would destroy you.
Not complete
I mean,
trials.
yeah, it hits
Yeah.
you over the head constantly with how much better your friends have been doing. than you.
Oh.
Yeah,
So
I think you can turn that off though.
you
right?
can
Yeah.
disable a lot
I
of
like
it.
stuff on XBLA right now.
Yeah, it's
The
been a good
downloads,
month.
like all the best games so far this year, are downloadable.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of that's the way it was last year too. Through like
but
March
it's
or
really
April.
pronounced right now.
Yeah,
Not a lot of big retail releases, but
yeah. So I guess that's it. Oh, the other thing about Fez is that there's pictures hidden in the soundtrack. Like I opened that sound visualizer app that we all installed for the Portal 2 ARG last year, and not quite every track, but almost all the tracks have at least one or two images hidden inside.
Which is the visualizer?
In the visual. Like you have to open up a spectrometer. No, not in waveforms. You open up the spectrogram or whatever it's called, and you set it to some specific, like you have to cycle through the settings until stuff becomes visible. But basically, it's hidden in the quiet space. It's crazy.
That's more work than I'm willing to put in.
Well, you can go find the pictures on.
What was
NeoGAF
the picture
if you want.
that Jeff mentioned? Like, there's like a picture of like Leon Trotsky wearing Fez or something
Oh,
like
dude,
that.
there's all sorts of there's
just crazy stuff like that.
there's 2/3 of the stuff I saw I didn't understand what the joke was.
Yeah.
There's references. There's like one that's just a whole grid of numbers in a hexagon. I have no idea what's up with that. It's fucking crazy.
The game's kind of mean. Like, it feels cruel from time to time.
You have to keep moving. That's
the complexity
thing.
of it. Like,
Yeah.
if you sit there and stare at one thing for too long, you can get angry.
Yeah. And like I said, you feel like the beautiful mind
Yeah,
guy.
I don't think this is for me. This is why I never played Super Meat Boy, because I just didn't want to. Everyone said, "Oh, it's so difficult." I'm like, yeah, that's just not
punishing.
Well,
Yeah.
Super Meat Boy was an exercise in masochism and really good controls. I thought.
But also, Meat Boy is just a test of dexterity.
Yeah.
That's all that is. This is much more cerebral. Than that.
Yeah, I'll play it, but I don't know. I don't think it's
just
gonna be
collect
my-
the cubes.
my-
Check it
Go
out.
see stuff.
Wander
Yeah.
around and see if it speaks to you.
All right.
I would be interested to see if somebody who's not interested in the puzzle enjoys the exploration aspect as much as
The
as
general
I did.
consensus seems to be that they don't. Like
Really?
the people who
It's
are
a
not
little
into
thin, the platformer
yeah.
game.
Like, I mean, it's fine, but it's not revolutionary in that respect.
Yeah. I'm gonna play some music. We're gonna answer a question and then call it a show.
Emails?
Well, but we do the other one.
Emails.
'Cause it's, we don't do emails. We do
Emails?
No.
Questions?
Boom. Brad just took his headphones off.
What happened there?
I hate the sound of my own voice.
Oh. Okay, good to know. If you have a question, the email address is podcast@tested.com. Keep it under 45 seconds. Make sure you listen to it and it sounds good and you sound like a human being and all that stuff. And I don't remember which of these two questions was the one I was going to run, so I'm going to pick this one on the right.
Hey guys, Herman here from New York City. My question is about time traveling. Time travel towards the future is pretty straightforward. A cosmonaut called Sergei, can't remember his last name, traveled like 0.02 seconds into the future by orbiting the Earth close to 12,000 times over the course of 700 or 800 days. Let's say we have a breakthrough in a few years and with fuel and can get up close to the speed of light. It would take us around 7 years to travel 500 years into the future. If this was available tomorrow, would you take this trip? At what point of your life would you take it? Now, when you're 50, when you're 80 years old, and how far into the future would you go? Keep in mind, when you get there, the machines may have taken over.
Yeah.
Okay, love the show, love you guys, and always be testing.
There's no question,
My
right?
answer is never.
Really? You wouldn't take the gamble?
Because there's no guarantee there will be anything left here when you get back.
Dude, there's no guarantee there's going to be anything left tomorrow.
Well,
Somebody could hit the button and the whole thing goes
There's
up.
nothing I could do about that. I don't voluntarily put myself in the situation where everyone else may be dead.
How many years?
Your choice.
My choice?
Yeah.
I would wait a little bit, but then I would take the jump.
When you're getting closer to death.
No.
Okay.
No.
Actually, you know what? Small increments might be okay.
Yeah.
Like 500 years sounds scary because
That
that's
is
enough
definitely
time for
scary.
everything to be gone.
You either
Yeah, that's a
you have to-
quarter
you have to
of
20
reach
years or something.
You have to reach, point of no return in terms of what you can accomplish here, and then be okay with.
It's a
going
great
ahead
little
and-
test of your general level of cynicism or optimism, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
like, I don't want to go because 500 years, we probably will have blown ourselves up by then. But if you're more optimistic, you may think, no, 500 years, it'll be Star Trek type.
Well, I have a lot of things to live for now, so.
See, I don't.
Oh.
So I would just go.
You've had a
Says the
kid.
guy
I would
who
roll the dice.
Right, like today? You take the ride today?
Yeah. No, I can't go today.
Leah
How
would
about
be-
next week?
Leah's going to be really pissed off at
not,
you, dude.
Leah would not be thrilled.
I would wait until I'm, say 50. I think 50 is a good, because the thing is, you don't want to wait until you're so old that you've started to have mental decline and stuff like that. Because what if they don't know how to fix that, right? But you also don't, and you don't want to be the transmetropolitan freezer cases, right? That's that's the worst case, is that you come out of the space warp and you're completely unable to cope with the reality that you face.
The culture is so different, you just don't
Yeah.
recognize it anymore. Yeah, that's a tough one.
I don't know. I think I'm in. I think
I
it's
would.
good.
I wouldn't take the risk either.
What do you got to lose?
my life the way that it is, which isn't that bad.
You're on record as saying that nothing good ever happens to you. Why is my life so terrible?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
I would go forward enough that I could still, the people I care about are still alive then, so like at least they get the closure and I get the closure, I guess.
Well, you could just send him a VHS tape.
No, but
That's the thing.
no.
I mean, in order to be able to do it, you'd have to basically have no one in your life that you care about, right? Because
That's true. Well, you could take him with you, I guess.
No, you can't take him with you.
Oh, was that one of the conditions?
He didn't
you
say
just
that.
like, let's say Norm wanted to jump forward 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He would have to go to his family and say, "You're not going to see me for the next 20
Exactly.
years."
Well, but
And
if he
I'd
goes
wanna
to
s-
Mars, if he goes to live on Mars, the same thing's going to happen.
Well, maybe so.
Yeah, I would wait.
Well, okay, so if there was a generation ship going to Alpha Centauri, would you get on the generation ship?
Well,
Well,
that's a completely different
There
question.
isn't enough information for me to answer that question.
Well, no, there is. I mean, if
You're not
if you
going
take
to
the
live
trip-
to see Alpha
If
Centauri.
you take the trip,
Oh, no,
well,
no.
yeah,
I mean,
okay.
is it like a Carnival cruise ship?
Yeah,
I'd be all right with that.
It's Wally. It's the hover chairs.
What kind of
and a cupcake and a
entertainment do
cup.
they have in the
Anything
lounge?
you want. Holodeck.
Lots of
Well, how
Shakespeare.
fast are they going?
Well, if it's
Like
a holodeck,
modern-
of
50
course
years.
I'm getting on it.
It's a 50-year trip.
Doesn't matter where the holodeck is.
Oh, well, okay, and unfiltered holodeck too. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah,
we
you
we
do
would all
anything.
be Reg Barkley within.
Right, you can
within a
kill
few days.
people, you sex with anybody, the whole 9 yards. Nothing's off limits. Don't hurt yourself, Chan.
Can I have the killing and the sex in the same scenario, or does it have to be
You
separated?
can American it up as much as you want.
I can American it up.
Yeah, you could.
What does that mean?
Well, nothing. America loves nothing more than sex and violence combined.
Do they?
Yeah, that's the thing.
I thought
You
just
can't say
violence.
naughty words on TV, but you can have all the violence you want. And if you add a little sexy to it, then people get really jazzed up about that.
All right. So
you should know this. You make movies.
safe search is off, basically, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All okay.
You can choose to put it on moderate if you want.
Oh god, yeah, the idea of safe search being off, but
That seems like a real bad
broadcast
idea.
into
Just-
the holodeck. Yeah, Star Trek got it wrong. Holodeck would be so messed up.
you don't want to type the wrong thing in if safe search is off.
Because that is the reality. Like even in the episode where they kind of handled this, where Reg Barkley was having like the holodeck addiction.
Yeah.
And they showed you what his holodeck addiction had
It was real tame.
had degenerated into. Yeah.
Super
I mean,
tame.
it was basically a slightly raunchy Three Musketeers. Whereas the reality is, it would be more like a Serbian film or something. It would just be
it was-
fucked up.
It was Cinemax at 10:30, not what's on the internet.
And the
today.
problem is that the holodeck is so real
Yeah.
that I don't believe you can just leave it behind when you'd accidentally kill someone in real life going, oh shit, like, yeah, I forgot we're not in the holodeck right now.
Yeah. Or you wake up in the morning and roll over and be like, oh, good morning, boom, and then all of the straight to the space prison for you.
Do you think that if you're in the holodeck and you know none of it matters, that whatever primal fucked up demon that secretly lives inside
Yes.
your brain would really exercise
behave.
itself?
Unless it was all documented for the real world.
This is the question.
There's a point of no return.
Yeah, this is you said the do you want to go 500 years in the future is the litmus test? This is the real litmus test.
Yes.
If you're someplace that seems real but there's no consequences, how far do you go?
But I think there are consequences mentally because you would carry that
Yeah.
experience out
Well,
with you.
that's what Reg Grossman and all the video game violence people said for years.
No,
it's,
but I think
it's the
but
same
again-
argument carried forward.
Yes, but there's a huge difference when the game becomes literally indistinguishable from reality. When you're talking about holodeck levels of verisimilitude, then that
Hold
would
on.
be a real danger.
So you're now taking the argument of Jack Thompson and all those people.
No, I'm not.
in
I'm saying
regards to
I'm
the
saying
holodeck.
no. I'm saying that only their argument only becomes valid when the simulation is that realistic.
Yeah, but to my parents, Quake looks realistic.
Does it?
I don't know. Maybe that was the argument they always made.
I don't buy it at that level. I don't think that you really play GTA and then want to go out and like kill prostitutes. But if GTA
you
was
played Burnout.
100% indistinguishable from reality, yes,
And
I
the
think
way
you'd
you
have a hard
played
time
it.
leaving that
And the way
experience
you
in the
played
game.
it wasn't with a keyboard and mouse on a monitor.
Right. Like you're actually picking up a baseball bat that feels real and braining someone with it. Then yeah, it's going to be hard to say, well, I've walked out computer arch and I just leave all that behind. No, you're going to take that
You
shit.
take the
That is
baseball
not-
bat with you.
The
not
trauma
comfortable.
or the erection or whatever it is you got from braining that person is not gonna just, you don't just turn that off when you turn the simulation off.
I'm not comfortable sitting next to him anymore.
Yeah, I'm a little scared.
The mental
We need to
part
get you lunch fast,
is
man.
coming with you. I told you I haven't had lunch yet. All my dark thoughts are still here.
So the thing about this whole When you get in the car after you play Burnout, though, don't you? I mean, I've had that thing where I shouldn't be driving 10 minutes after playing GTA for 5 hours.
Yes,
Or Burnout.
and I'm saying
or whatever.
but that's a tiny little residual carryover, which ultimately goes away quite quickly. But when the simulation is that real, I'm saying the carryover would be so.
So you're
much
saying
more
you play Untouchables, the hologram game. You finish the Robert De Niro baseball bat bit, and then you go out and have dinner with the kids. And because one of the kids doesn't put his napkin in his lap, you work the baseball bat on the kid.
I think you would have. I think you would have to have a point where, like, you constantly would, like, you would have to wear something around your wrist or something to remind you that you're not on the holodeck.
So it's the Inception thing. You have the top.
Yeah, you would need a totem. Because hold on, let me just spill this top and see if I can hit you with a baseball bat. I guess not.
Every argument finishes.
I
with
want
spinning.
that.
Oh, okay.
The device that I really want is the button you can press. You know, like the TiVo button where you get to rewind 30 seconds.
Yeah.
That's the button I want in real
It was a
life.
movie
That would be
called Click.
fantastic. Yeah, it was a real bad.
Well, no, but
movie.
he had much more control. But I just one thing we could say.
30
Let me
seconds?
just see what happens if I just slap you in the face right now and see what your reaction would be.
Oh, it's Galaxy Quest.
Don't you have? Have you
Yeah.
ever done?
Do you have unlimited use of this device, or
Yes.
does it have a cooldown, or what?
It has a cooldown.
Okay.
The cooldown is 8 seconds.
I'll give you. You get one 30-second rewind every hour.
No. Every 30 seconds, so
Oh.
you can't keep on pressing it.
That's not so useful.
So it's only 30
Well, no, but
seconds.
but you could stack them up.
So
You
it,
could
would,
keep
it
going
wouldn't.
back.
It wouldn't be that great in Vegas, then, would it? Well, you could.
No,
make,
it'd be
no, it would be
fantastic.
fantastic.
you could make
in
you
Vegas.
could make one giant bet every hour.
Yeah.
and just make
Yeah,
sure.
That's
you
all
get
you
okay.
need.
Yeah.
Yeah, go to the roulette wheel.
Yeah.
Something with really terrible odds.
No, that would screw up your life psychologically way more.
Yeah, do-overs. It's Groundhog Day. It's the same thing.
No, it's not the same
if you
thing.
can go back and do stuff over again, over and over and over again, it'll eventually.
But
make
you are
really
not immortal.
Crazy.
You still have to be alive within those 30
If
seconds. to
somebody
press the
if
button.
somebody gave you that
But if you're
device,
dying-
I think that the Rod Serling twist of this device is that, like, when you the one time you push it too far is the time that you, like, drop it down a sewer
right?
and
That's
can't go
the
back.
way the story would end up.
Like the time
Like,
you decide to shoot somebody and see what it feels like is the time that you suddenly
Or every
can't go
time
back.
you do it, you're making an alternate universe. Every it branches every
I
time.
don't care about those
How about this?
universes.
If somebody gave you that device, it's just a little handheld clicker, and it will rewind you 30
Yeah.
seconds,
Yeah.
and you can use it once every hour, just for the sake of argument.
Do you get to, like, if you go forward, do you keep, like, if you go in and rob a bank vault, do you get to keep the money if you can get the 30 seconds back? If you
No,
can get
no.
No.
So
Just
so
you.
it's
no,
just-
everything
It's just
rewinds
mental.
except your knowledge of the
Okay.
event.
Yeah, the brain.
But someone gave you that device and they said you can only use this for good. Would you still want it?
Yes. I could make a lot of good.
You say no, yeah, not
Goods.
Good
Goods.
for you.
I'm buying
Goods.
and by good, we don't just mean personally good for you,
Oh.
but like objectively using it for, like,
Yeah, I'd still do
selfless
it.
reasons.
Yeah.
You say that now, but like after
It
a
would be
couple of
really
days, you're like,
frustrating.
yeah, I could use this right now, but I can't because it's not.
30 seconds isn't very much time.
And that's
though.
the consequence.
But
So
it's
if you
enough
use
to
it
do a lot
ever
of
for
things.
bad.
This seems like a screenplay. We should take this out of the podcast and not talk about this.
Why? It's not that good an idea.
Yeah, okay.
30 seconds is enough for a roulette spin as well, by the way. You could totally see where the I think you could, in 30 seconds you could see where the ball lands, hit the button immediately,
And get your
you
last
would have
bet
gone
in,
back
yeah.
far enough to just get the bet in before they say no more bets.
Yeah.
You could do that all day.
Yeah. Poker final bets too.
Yeah.
Or once you hit age, 50, all that catches up with you, and you add the time that you got back to the
So
end.
you go from like 50 to 72 overnight?
Yeah.
Oh.
I just want to do the slap in the face thing. That's all I wanted to do.
Yeah, I mean the thing is you'd meet people and instead of shaking their hands, you'd hit them in the face and then hit the button.
because every now and again
so
I'll do
funny.
this.
I just slapped you in the face.
Sometimes if I'm this is a good tip for anyone who has future interactions with me. If I'm in a conversation with you and you're in the middle of like a long
Monologue?
little chat, you're going on and I'm like I'm nodding, paying attention, listening to you. What's probably actually going on is me thinking, I wonder what would happen if I just slap this person in the face really hard right now. Like, how would they react? Like, would I be able to apologize? Like, could I get that back? Like, or would our relationship be
We have to get some
irrevocably
food in
changed?
Yeah, he's gone full evil. I think that's going to do it for us today. Thank you. Thanks, Brad, Gary, Norm, for coming out as always. Gary, Walking Dead's out now on PC. It'll be out at Xbox Friday, right?
Yeah, so The Walking Dead is now out on PC and Mac. You can go get it from Steam. And the PSN version, PlayStation 3 version's on PSN right now, and Xbox Live tomorrow.
Cool.
$5 per episode.
Reviews are real good so
Reviews
far.
have been terrific.
I hear really good things.
Really pleased.
Yeah, and I think on Steam you get the whole season, right? If you pay $25 or whatever.
Yeah, so it's
5
it's
episodes.
kind of weird the way it works. The retailers, these digital retailers, these stores now all have different rules. So, for example, on Steam, you can only buy the whole season. You have to pay $25 and you buy all 5 episodes ahead of time. You basically buy like a subscription season pass. Xbox Live doesn't support that. You have to buy the episodes a la carte, one at a time, $5. And I believe PSN is the same.
Okay.
But yeah,
And this is set in the TV show universe,
comic book universe.
But some of the characters
you'll recognize, but it's a separate set of characters,
So it's not
separate
Rick and-
story. You don't. A lot of people have asked me, like, do I need to be familiar with the comics or the TV show to enjoy the game? And the answer is no, because it's a completely separate story.
Very cool.
But yeah, Leah and I played the first episode the other night, and she really enjoyed it. It's the first time she's played one of those dialogue choosing games, and she was so concerned with it. Was really interesting to watch her play because she was so concerned with the consequences of each
Yeah.
Well, you want to see it all.
choice. Yeah, it's like you want to go back, and a lot of people are going back. And I said to her, "I'm going to get the Xbox version." She said, "Oh yeah, I want to play that again because I want to make different
See the
choices
different
this time."
passes.
Yeah.
Cool. Norm, Brad, anything to plug? No. Brad, you're on giantbomb.com, I believe.
Something like that.
Okay,
yeah.
that's good. You guys do a podcast or something, I understand.
We do, in
Okay,
fact.
good to know.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Norm, you'll be on Tested all week.
Got my 30-inch monitor. Everything's good.
Oh, is it here?
Yeah.
So you've replaced Monitor Quest. Didn't last very long.
Nope.
What kind?
Which one did you
The
get?
Dell 30-inch.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you like it?
I like it.
That might be. And how much was it?
We can talk offline about that.
Should we quick look at
Is that an IPS?
It is IPS.
Wow.
Yeah. I've been upgraded. My other monitor died, which is also a Dell 30-inch.
Because I'm going to be looking for a
3 years ago.
30-inch display when I build this new PC as well.
See, I'm afraid of screens that big because then you're pushing so many pixels. You have
See,
to worry
that's
about
the
performance
other thing.
again.
What?
I'm
You gotta-
looking-
No.
What is
It's
it?
a big video
25,
card.
60 by something?
What's the
Yeah,
native
so,
resolution? Yeah, what's the native resolution?
2560 by 60.
Right, so to run a game in that resolution with all the bells and whistles, you're going to need some serious.
That's the
a
thing, I would-
680 that you
I
were
would-
planning on buying would do.
I would
just
much
fine.
rather be at 1080p with a higher frame rate.
You can,
We've
you can
discussed this
play
the other day.
1080p and still scale up and it'll look just as good.
That's the
Okay.
thing is I play games on my 30-inch with a 1080p almost always.
Because scaling used to be not the
Or
best
you know
thing
what?
to do.
Turn off AA and just
Yeah.
play
Yeah.
it.
Because I've considered this as well, is just get like a really good like 42-inch 1080p HD TV and just drive
Pixel
that.
density.
That's the thing.
Well, but-
I do think you're missing. But one of the great benefits of PC gaming is super high resolution.
You're primarily playing games on your PC though.
Yeah.
I mean, I think for you 1080p makes sense. I think that's like if you're willing to spend the money and get the 30-inch panel, which is going to be like an $800 price difference.
Yeah.
That's fine. Go for it. It's not
Yeah.
going to hurt you. You're not going to be sad about it or anything. If you're a normal person and you're on a budget, then you want the 1080p 40-inch TV is a perfectly
great way to
reasonable
go.
way to go if you're primarily playing games. If you're
Yes.
also going to be working on this PC, it is not a great solution because the pixel
Yes.
density is bad
Yes.
and the subpixel layout does not lend itself to font
I need that
rendering
real
very
estate
well.
for so many tabs.
Well, you work on your PC. Gary just plays games on his
Yeah,
PC.
I may consider the HD TV
Like,
option.
I think because the thing is, you're still looking at a much higher resolution than you get on a console.
But for games like SimCity, aren't I going to want like the super high pixel density?
Yeah, you want
Yeah.
the awesome menus.
Yeah, yeah,
I will
yeah.
be interested to see if you can run like traditionally when SimCity games have come out, you have not been able to run them anywhere near native resolution, the high end resolution. When SimCity 4 came out, you could,
How long ago was that?
like 8 years ago.
Right, I think some things have changed since then.
I understand that, but my point is they are going to make that game push everything that
I
you
think
have.
it'll be fine.
You don't think so?
Nobody who does that anymore. Nobody.
Yeah, but it's
I may
not
want
the way-
to. I may
that's
want
not
to
the
come
way
over and
PC
look
games
at
are made now.
your
I
new
guess
panel.
that's true.
Yeah.
But it's a PC. It's not like it's a console game that's ported over. It's a PC game.
True.
I don't know. We'll see. So that'll do it for us this week. I think we did fake outtakes during the letter section. This week's theme is brought to you by KJN. Thanks, guys, for listening. We'll be back next Thursday. Bye. Hi there. I didn't see you.
What is this? This looks like peasant food.
It was really
Where's my foie gras?
I noticed that from last week
video.
the